Chapter 281. Ever since Li Hongyuan returned to the age of 10 and started all over again, the general situation was within his grasp. Even if there were too many changes due to Wanwan's matters and he slightly lost control in the middle, under the circumstances where he was not fully prepared, he almost started a coup d'état in advance, causing Qiyuan to fall into internal strife. However, Wanwan's stroke of genius, in a situation where she was unaware, strangled this turmoil. Other than that, even if there were changes in people or things, it was all within his expectations. Li Hongyuan was confident, but he was not conceited. After changing many things, he had long realized that everything in the past could at most be used as a reference and could not be completely relied on. Moreover, it had been too long, and many things were blurred in his memory. However, if he had met someone like Governor Su of Tongzhou County, it was impossible for him to not have any impression at all. His memory would be blurred because it was not important. Some things would remain fresh in his memory even after hundreds or thousands of years, let alone decades. Governor Su, this old dog, either suddenly fell ill or passed away in an accident, or there was something wrong with his identity, so that he had no chance to meet him. Just like how Governor Su felt that Li Hongyuan was not ordinary, Li Hongyuan also felt that he was not ordinary. Although this feeling was very weak because Jingwan was by his side, he was particularly concerned about his safety. Even the slightest bit of abnormality would alert him. If he was alone, he would most likely ignore it. In this way, it could not be said that Li Hongyuan's level was not as high as Governor Su's. It was just that he was facing a group of people alone. The group of people only needed to pay attention to him, but he had to filter out the one with the most potential from the group of people. If he really filtered them one by one, it was absolutely possible to find the one with the most potential. However, according to his laziness, was it possible? If he caught Governor Su with a fleeting glance, then he could only blame it on his bad luck. Or was it because he raised a good daughter? After that, only Eunuch Mu, who had been serving him, and Yu Zhongqing were left in the study. You can send some messages to the one on the throne appropriately. I don't think I need to teach you the specifics. Yu Zhongqing found the way Li Hongyuan addressed Lu Qingdi a little strange. Just from the way he addressed Lu Qingdi, he knew that there was something wrong between the father and son. Maybe it was one-sided or maybe it was not. As the commander of the Imperial Guards, Li Hongyuan appeared by Lu Qingdi's side almost every day. Therefore, he knew in detail that there were a few days every year when Lu Qingdi acted strangely. As for the reason, only a few people knew about it because it was a taboo and they dared not talk about it. However, from Lu Qingdi's mutterings, Yu Zhongqing roughly guessed that it had something to do with the prince's birth mother. However, it was best not to be curious about the master's affairs. After sending them away, Li Hongyuan felt a little sleepless. Sure enough, this habit was terrible. In the past, even if he slept lightly at night, he would still be able to fall asleep. But now... Speaking of which, was it too late to go back and apologize? However, since Wanwan was so angry, it was very likely that he would be refused the door when he went back. Li Hongyuan used to deal with things efficiently, but now he was unusually slow. He regarded those complicated letters from Rongchang as lessons that needed to be read word by word and memorized. But after reading for a long time, he couldn't remove the useful ones. No matter how he looked at them, he felt disgusted. So, he threw them into the brazier and rubbed his eyebrows. Eunuch Mu changed a cup of weak tea for him. Master, just now the princess's nanny said that the princess couldn't fall asleep, tossing and turning in bed. Li Hongyuan was refreshed. He didn't think so much and directly got up and went back to his room. Before, when he had to deal with something, he either stayed with Jingwan or waited for her to fall asleep before he got up. He didn't come out for a long time, so he didn't know that she couldn't fall asleep without him. Li Hongyuan gently knocked on the door and then said all kinds of lowly and mushy words. He was extremely shameless. Even the maids who were afraid of him couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle at this time. In fact, when the prince faced the princess, he was not afraid at all. Jingwan opened the door with a dark face and dragged him in. Why did you knock? The door is not locked. Even if it is locked and you want to come in, how can it trap you? You are sincere, right? And you are a dignified prince. Don't you feel ashamed in front of a group of servants? As long as I can coax my wife back, what is face? Can it be eaten? Can you let me sleep with my wife in my arms? Jingwan had seen his shamelessness a long time ago. Although she didn't know his bottom line, Jingwan was too lazy to talk to him. She was so sleepy. Since the pillow came back by itself, it was better to sleep peacefully. Everything could wait until she woke up. Li Hongyuan saw that her eyes were almost unable to open and his heart ached. He didn't talk nonsense and carried her to the bed to sleep. Sure enough, there was a familiar scent. The two quickly fell asleep. Nanny Gong came in and turned off the light. Seeing the two of them like this, she felt that perhaps her heart could be put back to its original position. She had watched one grow up, and the other she had carefully served for several years. The princess was the best. As for the prince, even if he had many shortcomings, his ability could not be denied. Moreover, his kindness to the princess was not to be questioned. That was enough. In the future, no matter what happened, it was enough that they would be in the same boat through thick and thin. After a good night's sleep, Jingwan prepared to go out for a stroll today. It wasn't easy to go out. If she didn't seize the opportunity to have fun, she would feel sorry for herself. After all, it was unknown when she would be able to come out next time. Perhaps she wouldn't have such a chance again. With a group of considerate servants, she didn't need to prepare anything. She just needed to be in high spirits and bring herself along. Jingwan's goal today was still to visit a few places in the city. She followed the road and went one by one. First of all, it was the closest ancient building. Perhaps there was no awareness of protecting ancient relics now, but the few ancient buildings left behind by the Taming prefecture were well preserved, had a special meaning, and were located in a rather special location. Generation after generation of renovation, most of them were places where scholars gathered. The oldest one was more than 1,000 years old. Of course, because the main structure was made of stone, it had been preserved for so long. The rest were at most 400 years old. The nearest ancient building was called the Immortals Viewing Platform. It was the oldest ancient building. In reality, because the Immortals Viewing Platform was high enough, it was very conspicuous even from the side yard. The group arrived at the Immortals Viewing Platform. It turned out that this wasn't just the Immortals Viewing Platform. The Immortals Viewing Platform was just a place that was later built in a place called the Immortals Viewing Garden. Perhaps it was due to the influence of the garden that Governor Wei had donated, but similar places more or less had a certain garden style. Perhaps it was for the sake of complementing the Immortals Viewing Platform, but the fake mountains were much taller than the other places. Pavilions, terraces, and pavilions were embedded behind the fake mountains of different heights. She didn't go straight to the Immortals Viewing Platform. Instead, she walked along it. She passed by paths and crossed bridges. Groups of 3 to 5 students were gathered to discuss their studies. Occasionally, there were men and women playing around. Compared to Jingwan's pure playfulness and joy, those women were much more reserved, especially those with young girls' hair. They avoided people as soon as they saw them. Jingwan found this quite amusing. It was just like in her previous life, when she had been caught in a puppy love by a teacher. Pure and innocent. However, when Jingwan thought about her own age, it wasn't a matter of puppy love. It was clearly a matter of early marriage, early marriage, early marriage, early marriage. She had been gnawed until not even her bones were left. She turned back to look at Li Hongyuan with a bit of ridicule. Just a moment ago, she was still leaning on the railing looking down. She didn't know what she saw, but she turned her head to look at him. Li Hongyuan was baffled. He took 2 steps forward and also looked down. There was nothing. What is Wan Wan looking at this husband for? He couldn't help but reach out to touch her face. Jingwan avoided his hand and smiled. She teased in a low voice. My family's husband is handsome, ah. With such good looks, it's natural to look at him from time to time. It's very pleasing to the eyes. Although whenever there was no need, sure Darren and Yu Zhongqing would consciously stay away from them, and Jingwan could be considered to be used to their existence. However, she couldn't be too insolent. What kind of person was Jin Qin Wang? Even after being teased by his own wife, he was still so calm. Then do you want to find a place for Wan to look at him alone? That's not necessary. If you keep looking you'll get tired. It's called aesthetic fatigue. It's better to keep a distance and maintain the freshness. Wan's meaning is to keep a distance from this husband, Li Hongyuan said with a shallow smile. Jingwan quivered. No, I definitely don't mean that. She hastily denied. Then Wan's meaning is, I'm talking about other people. Who is my family's husband? It's impossible for such a thing to happen. Be good. Li Hongyuan smoothed her hair and kissed her forehead. Jingwan's heart was filled with tears. Looking back, she saw the other two girls with their heads down and their faces flushed red. Obviously they had seen what happened just now. Jingwan's skin was relatively thick. Although she may never reach a certain person's level, but now this kind of immoral matter would never make her blush. She even nodded to the two girls and walked past them. No one was more satisfied with Jingwan's behavior than Li Hongyuan. If possible, he didn't mind letting the world see him and Jingwan being intimate. From the moment they entered Wangxian Yuan, there was a pair of eyes sneakily staring at them. Jingwan was having so much fun that she didn't notice, but the number of people who noticed was not small. It was just that no one paid attention to her. She was just a clown jumping around. Finally they stood at the foot of the Immortals viewing platform. Jingwan looked at it. It was more than a dozen stories high. Overall, 3 sides of the wall were vertical, while one side was slanted. The ladder didn't go up from the slanted side directly, but went up layer by layer from the edge. Just climbing up would take a lot of time. Jingwan looked at the stone tablet in the corner. It described the origin of the Immortals viewing platform. Actually, from the name, one could roughly guess what it was originally used for. It was just that the one who did this was not some emperor, but a famous scholar. Because refining immortality pills was a common practice, from top to bottom, anyone with a bit of status would have a bunch of random people at home. And after that, that scholar had been criticized by others. Many of his things were even boycotted, but he was too famous and had too many disciples. In the end, the matter was left unsettled, and the Immortals viewing platform was preserved. At the same time, the living geomancy map explained to Jingwan in more detail, and even told her some thought-provoking stories. When it was about time, Wan, you can go up first. I'll go change first, Li Hongyuan said. Jingwan nodded. Then she lifted her feet and walked up step by step. Every step was a view of the scenery. But when she turned around, Li Hongyuan waved his hand a few steps away, and had someone bring over the person who had followed them. He didn't need to say anything. The person kneeling on the ground took the initiative to remove the mask that covered only her eyes. She looked at Li Hongyuan with teary eyes. Your Highness. The swollen face from yesterday's beating was almost unnoticeable. Who knew how much effort had been put into it? Some people's faces might not recover even after a few days. This pair of eyes is quite beautiful, Li Hongyuan said expressionlessly. Joy flashed across Su Ting's face. Your Highness is too kind. She knew it. How could a man? Digging it out would be quite a collectible, Li Hongyuan continued nonchalantly. The joy on Su Ting's face suddenly disappeared without a trace. She turned pale. Your Highness, this subject's daughter is just want to seduce Ben Wang, I know. But wearing this kind of ghastly appearance to seduce a man, it's really unique. Or is it that underneath this gunny sack-like coarse cloth, there's nothing to wear? Wearing like this, there's more contrast when taking it off. Governor Su, you're not a daughter, you're a prostitute. No, Your Highness, this subject's daughter has difficulties. I beg you to give this subject's daughter a chance. Even if it's just listening to this subject's daughter, it's fine. Su Ting pleaded. She also didn't want to dress like this. Usually she also dressed beautifully. The clothes on her body were also comfortable and soft. However, although her father gave her a chance, that sister of hers sent people to guard outside the governor's manor. That slut also said what she said and said that she wouldn't stop her. In the end, her father was the same. He promised to give her a chance but didn't help her. He only told her where Jean Qinhuang was and warned her that if outsiders found out, her end would be very miserable. She had no choice but to do this, because everyone knew that she loved to be beautiful. Dressing like this, even if she stood in front of them, they wouldn't be able to recognize her. Ben Wang is not interested. Li Hongyuan did not hesitate to beat him to the bottom. Your Highness. Teardrops rolled down, incomparably sorrowful. I beg you, I beg you. Her voice was like crying blood. Seeing that you're so pitiful, you should go and find the princess consort. If she nods, this prince will let you stay. After all, the princess consort is a woman of rules. She has always abhorred people who come from shady backgrounds. If you really sleep with this prince, believe this prince, she will tie you up and parade you through the streets. Then she will throw you back to the Su family. But you better move quickly. When Ben Wang comes back, you're still pestering Wang Fei. Ben Wang doesn't mind throwing you to the military brothel at the border. With your face you must be very popular. Finished speaking, Li Hongyuan's left hand brushed across his right sleeve and leisurely walked away. Su Ting's eyes were somewhat sluggish. She didn't know if she really wanted to do this. Jean Qinhuang was obviously not a good person. Should she hope that Jean Qinhuang was really kind? But what could she do? The place where she was originally full of confidence hit a wall. She originally thought that without Jean Qinhuang, she could easily take down Jean Qinhuang. In the end, it wasn't the case. Looking at the immortal viewing platform, she stood up from the ground. Even if she might be humiliated, she still had to go. No matter how bad it was, could it be worse than being given to that person? Su Ting quickly went up the immortal's viewing platform. Logically speaking, one should be admiring the scenery and climbing the stairs at the same time. Her speed couldn't be that fast. However, after Jingwan reached the first level, she suddenly had the idea of admiring the scenery from above. Thus, Su Ting was in a tragedy. She used all her strength to climb up, but she still couldn't see Jingwan's figure. Su Ting gasped for breath, her face flushed red and dripping with sweat. Her feet felt like they were filled with lead. If she wasn't certain that Jingwan had gone up, and that there was only one path on the entire Immortals viewing platform without any rooms or the like, she would have thought that she missed it. How could a pampered Qin Wang Fei walk so fast? Jingwan was originally not the same as the average woman, and the people around her were influenced by her. Each and every one of them had good physical strength, not to mention the bodyguards. Moreover, the living Qin Wang too was an awesome person who had traveled all over the country. Even if he returned to the capital, he had developed the habit of walking. How could it be that his physical strength wasn't good? For someone like Su Ting, the most exercise was probably when she was dancing. Because she had an innate advantage, she didn't need to train too hard. It would be strange if her physical strength was good. However, Jean Qinhuang didn't give her much time. She could only desperately chase up. In the end, she really did manage to climb up. When she saw Jingwan was calmly standing on the top floor enjoying the breeze, while she was panting like a dead dog. Facing Jingwan's astonished gaze, she was so ashamed that she wanted to die. Even so, she still tried her best to maintain her composure and slowly greet her. However, in reality, Su Ting was really in a sorry state right now. She was a beauty, but her clothes were terrible to look at. Her hair was disheveled, and because of her sweat, it was stuck to her face. In the eyes of men, perhaps Jingwan liked women, so perhaps it was a bit tempting. However, to Jingwan, who only liked men like this, even a fairy couldn't be beautiful. Seeing her suffer so much, Jingwan couldn't help but soften. Even though she knew her intentions, she reluctantly gave her a chance to listen to what she had to say. Jingwan waved her hand, blocking Su Ting's people to let her pass. Speak, what do you want to say? Su Ting knelt down in front of Jingwan, Wang Fei Nyong is merciful, please save this subject's daughter. Don't flatter me. I'm not a bodhisattva. How can I be merciful? Don't talk nonsense. If you just want to say that you can't live anymore and beg me to take you in, you can be a servant or a maid. As long as I give you food, you are willing to repay me as an ox or a horse. You'd better not say that. If I really am soft-hearted and accept you, even if you only have the status of a servant, I'm afraid that you will hate me to death and will turn around to stab me in the back. If you want to say that you've taken a fancy to His Highness, and as long as you stay by his side, you can serve me wholeheartedly without fighting for anything, let me tell you that's even more impossible. Jing Wan was 100% sure that someone had already seen Su wanting. As for why she appeared in front of her, Jing Wan didn't even need to think to know how bored he was to do such a thing. Wang Fei Nyong, this subject's daughter really can't live anymore. My father wants to marry me to a person who can be a grandfather as a concubine. Wang Fei Nyong doesn't know how disgusting that family is, so it's better to let me die. Begging Wang Fei Nyong to be merciful and save this subject's daughter. Yesterday, this subject's daughter didn't want to do anything to the prince, but because there was no other way, this subject's daughter did this. The one who married you to an old man as a concubine is your own father. He doesn't love you, so why do you think that an outsider will love you? He doesn't have a kind heart, so you ask an outsider to be kind. Why do you think that an outsider should have a kind heart? This way of thinking of yours really makes people feel that it's quite strange. Also, if you don't want to be an old man's concubine, you're willing to recommend yourself to a young and handsome man as a servant. That family is disgusting. Do you understand the situation of Jin Wangfu? What kind of logic was this? Su Ting bit her lips, as if she was speechless. After a moment, father raised me and married me to anyone. There shouldn't be any complaints, but it's really. It was as if it was extremely difficult to speak. Wang Fei Nyong, before you came to Kai Ming Fu, this subject's daughter was already in despair because no one could help this subject's daughter. If you're not willing to take this subject's daughter with you, as long as you take this subject's daughter away from the Su family, from Ming Fu, it'll be fine. From then on, you'll be a fugitive to the ends of the world. Jing Wan interrupted her with a sneer. With this face of yours, you want to be a fugitive to the ends of the world, don't you want to be a fugitive to the red light district? What you mean is that you'd rather serve 1,000 people than serve one person, right? Su Ting was choked by Jing Wan's words. At worst, I'll just scratch this face. Hee, then why not scratch it earlier? Without this face, will your father still give you away? It's fine to be a fugitive to the ends of the world, but it's also fine to be a monk, right? After being humiliated again and again, Su Ting was also angry. In the end, Wang Fei Nyong doesn't have any compassion. In the end, Wang Fei Nyong is just worried that someone prettier than you will snatch Wang Ye away. You're angry because you can't act pitiful and act pitiful? Do you think I'll be fooled by such a low-level provocation? Let's not talk about whether I have compassion or not. I'm just worried that Wang Ye will be snatched away. It's really wronged. If it's so easy to be snatched away, why would I care? It's not too late to leave now, otherwise. I'll ask someone to send you back to the governor's manor. Failing to do so, Su Ting's face changed again. Wang Fei Nyong, this subject's daughter really doesn't have any ulterior motives towards Wang Ye. Please help this subject's daughter. Even if you believe that this subject's daughter has ulterior motives, Wang Ye has countless concubines. So what if this subject's daughter is one more? This subject's daughter will always be on your side. No matter how many concubines he has, what does it have to do with you? Knowing that he's a wolf, yet you still let him into the room. Am I stupid, or do you think I'm that stupid? I'll say it for the last time, Scram. Otherwise, this Wang Fei will have to ask Governor Su for the crime of not teaching his daughter properly. Everyone says that Wang Fei Nyong is benevolent. You really should let people see the current you. Su Ting staggered to get up, looking like she had lost her soul. Since that's the case, Su Ting suddenly rushed towards the edge, but the direction she was heading towards was the most crowded. It's better to die. But when she threw herself at the guardrail, she tightly grabbed the guardrail, the edges of her fingernails bleeding. She probably didn't expect that not only was she not stopped, those few people avoided her like the plague. Su Ting looked below in a trance. Why was every step different from what she expected? Do you want to seek death? What are you doing lying on the edge? Once you lift your foot, you'll flip over. Going down from this height, you don't have to worry about not dying. Jin Qinhuang's tone was light, but his words were cruel. Since you don't have the courage, Ben Wang will help you. Someone come, throw her down for Ben Wang. The others at most looked on coldly from the sidelines. A living king of hell, other than towards Jingwen. His actions were always more than his words. He had to have sympathy to have compassion. If he hesitated, then he wasn't a living king of hell. The master gave the order. 2 guards stepped forward, one on the left and one on the right, grabbed her arms and pushed her upper body forward, about to push her down. Don't! Su Ting screamed in fright, pulling the sleeves of the guards. Wangya, this subject's daughter was wrong. This subject's daughter was wrong. Spare my life, ah! She no longer cared about her image as she cried and screamed, almost collapsing. The people near the Immortals' viewing platform all heard her voice and couldn't help but raise their heads. Some of them showed a dumbfounded expression, probably because they recognized her, or perhaps they weren't too sure. After all, those clothes. But what happened? Wangya. There seemed to be only one Wangya in Taming Fu. What did she do to provoke Wangya to throw her down from such a high place? Some ambitious people started to stir. Under the circumstances where they didn't understand Li Hongyuan, they only knew that if they could gain the recognition of a Wangya, they might be able to rise to the top. But Su Ting's pleas for mercy were of no use. The guards didn't even pause in their actions. She was just a weak girl. How could she resist 2 guards who were as strong as iron towers? They grabbed her legs again, and with a light tug, her body was suspended in the air. Half of her body was already thrown out. Wang Fei, I was wrong, really wrong. I don't want to die. Spare me, I beg you, please spare me. Seeing that she was about to fall in the nick of time. Forget it, Jingwan said mildly. Hearing this, the guards decisively pulled Su Ting back and mercilessly threw her to the ground. After surviving the disaster, Su Ting laid on the ground and wailed loudly. Noisy! Li Hongyuan's voice was so cold that it was as if the blood in the June weather had been frozen to the bone. Su Ting's voice stopped abruptly as if her neck was being choked. Scram! Su Ting didn't dare to stop at all. She hurriedly got up and staggered away. When she took the last 2 steps down the ladder, she didn't know how she sprained her ankle and her whole body fell down. Fortunately, it was the last 2 steps. Even if she rolled on the ground, she didn't hurt herself. It was just that her ankle was a little twisted. Even so, she endured the pain, gritted her teeth, got up, and limped away around the corner. Should I learn some of Wang Ye's methods in the future? Jingwen looked at Li Hongyuan and asked. She asked him to scram, but not only did he not scram, he even wanted to threaten her with death. When this man asked him to scram, he immediately scrammed. On Li Hongyuan's face, the ice cracked and spring returned to the earth. Wan, you should learn well. You're too soft-hearted. If you want to do something, do it ruthlessly. That's why no one dares to jump. Otherwise, people will think that you have a good temper and are easy to bully. You always make a scene of crying, throwing a tantrum, and threatening to hang yourself. I'm tired of it. Jingwan didn't immediately respond. Instead, she quietly looked at him for a moment. Wang Ye, don't play like this in the future. It's quite boring. Li Hongyuan smiled and didn't comment. It was obvious that he wasn't prepared to listen to Jingwan's opinion. He was prepared to do something to the end. This man seemed to be determined to force her to become a well-known shrew. A jealous shrew. Jingwan really had a headache. Could it be that she had to be like him, who would become jealous if she paid a little attention to the opposite sex, or if the opposite sex looked at her more than once? No, it seemed that even the same sex would be the same. He was so crazy that he would include women, old and young, and couldn't wait to destroy the third party? His possessiveness was so strong that it was perverted. He was perverted himself, but he still forced others to be perverted with him. Was this really good? Should she be glad that he didn't think of locking her up and not letting her see anyone except him? Although this was only her subtle feeling, Jingwon was at least 70% sure. After all, this man's behavior was very obvious. Once or twice was fine, but 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. He had already shown it before they got married. If she still didn't feel anything, how slow would she be? Jingwon only wanted to ask, was it possible to correct it? Forget it, if a lunatic was so easy to cure, it couldn't be called a lunatic. Let's go down and change places, Jingwon said. We just came up. Why don't you look around? The scenery up here is very good. The air is polluted, and the mood is not good. Your Highness, if you attract bees and butterflies during the tour, this concubine will be very unhappy. Wan, you have to know that this kind of thing is not something that I can control. If you encounter it, you can simply deal with it and it's over. So simple. Isn't this your business? My business is to deal with the people who are spying on you. Nonsense, I'm a married woman, who would want to spy on me? I've only heard of women who throw themselves at married men, but I've never heard of a man who fawns on a married woman. My Wan is different. There are many people who are thinking about you. How can I not keep a close eye on you? Your Highness, are you accusing me of having an affair? Jingwon looked at him with a faint smile. Digression. Continue to ask for votes, monthly votes at the end of the month, evaluation votes, clearance, https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653496. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile edition. Chapter 282. Is Your Highness accusing me of having an affair? Jingwon looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. Everyone else was shocked by Jingwon's words. Even Mama Gong couldn't help but breathe heavily. Yu Zhongqing and Lord Shi, who were standing relatively far away, originally wouldn't look at Jingwon out of courtesy, but at this time they couldn't help but look over. These words were really too bold. Alright, it wasn't just bold. Everyone couldn't help but look at Li Hongyuan. The others' opinions weren't important. Only his opinion was the most important. Compared to the others, Li Hongyuan's expression was very calm. Wan only had one reverse scale that couldn't be touched. She wanted her husband to be loyal, and she herself was also absolutely loyal. He still remembered in his previous life when he forced her to be unchaste, what kind of attitude she had when she was on the verge of death. He also remembered the heart-wrenching pain at that time. His breath caught, but he controlled it very well and no one noticed. Because he understood, it really wasn't a problem. But without waiting for Li Hongyuan to answer, Jingwon continued. When a man has an affair, it's not called being unfaithful, it's called being dissolute. Of course, when a man gets involved with someone he shouldn't get involved with, it's called being a romantic affair and regarded as a beautiful story. When a woman has an affair, she's the first one to be punished. Even if a woman is really dissolute, under any circumstances, it's only half the fault. When a man can't control his belt, how can he be forcefully stripped by a woman? The most innocent is the woman who was forced. She clearly suffered the greatest harm, but no one sympathized with her. Not only did no one uphold justice, but they also put all kinds of unbearable names on her head. Even after death, she couldn't find peace. Speaking of which, this man was born with great difficulty. It's fine if he didn't help his mother when he did something despicable, but he also advised his mother to be more magnanimous and tolerant. Was this filial piety? And the so-called 3 obediences and 4 virtues, the so-called, follow the son when the husband dies. It's fine when there's no conflict, but when there's a conflict, Is filial piety first? Or is it the son first? It was a matter of course for men to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but they required women to be loyal and faithful. When a woman overstepped her boundaries, she would say that a man was cuckolded. In my opinion, in this world, out of 1,000 women, at least 999 would be cuckolded. They were all humans, but why was there such a huge difference? Can't be helped. It's all about male supremacy. Men naturally set rules for women. Once a woman goes against a man's wishes, it's wrong. Li Hongyuan narrowed his eyes and looked at Jingwen. Her resentment seemed to be a little heavy. She smiled faintly and said, Wan, don't condemn everyone. Women's commandments, women's rules. These books were written by women. I don't deny that they're talented, but to write such things, they're simply out of their minds. It's fine if they want to use it to establish themselves, but they even wrote it to harm others. They want all women to be like them. This scourge has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years. Many women have suffered and been blamed because of them. When they reach the underworld, who knows how many vengeful spirits will want to tear them apart. With these books, you men will be even more proud. Look, all you women think the same. Everything you do is more natural and unrestrained. Other than Li Hongyuan, everyone lowered their heads. They even wanted to block their ears so that they wouldn't listen to it anymore. Seeing that Jingwan's resentment was about to overflow, Li Hongyuan hurried forward and pulled her into his arms. Don't be angry, don't be angry. This person, perhaps because she cared, she didn't care about anything. If he didn't know Jingwan, or if he knew her but didn't have such feelings, he would probably think that she was rebellious, arrogant, and reckless. But now he felt that what she said was quite right. Of course, these things had nothing to do with him. He wouldn't ask Wan to do it, and he wouldn't indirectly do something that she had to follow the rules. Jingwan also knew that she was a little too agitated. She leaned in Li Hongyuan's arms for a while and calmed down. Then she looked at Li Hongyuan. You seem to be quite happy. I'm quite happy. It's because Wan has absolute trust in me that she said these words. Shouldn't I be happy? Hearing this, Jingwan was also quite happy. But, Your Highness, aren't you focusing on the wrong point? What's wrong? My point is correct. As for Wan's point, Li Hongyuan held her face and made her look directly at him. If Wan thinks that there's a problem, then you can change it in the future. Change according to your ideas. I will be your most powerful support. Jingwan always said that his skill of sweet-talking was maxed out. But Jingwan felt that this was the most beautiful thing she had ever heard. Thank you, Ah Yuan. If there was such an opportunity, Jingwan naturally wouldn't let it go. Of course, she was very clear that in the current social background, it was simply a dream to change a lot and make the status of women equal to men. Even if this man was already the emperor and she was the mother of the country, it was impossible to achieve this. If she overdid it, she would inevitably be opposed by many. Once she was isolated and helpless, even the most powerful emperor could. Therefore, she only wanted to slightly improve the status of women. When they were hurt, they wouldn't have to suffer more pain. When the official wife was suppressed by the concubines in the family to the point that she almost had no space to live, she wouldn't lose the ability to struggle. Especially the officials, she must let them know that if they favored their concubines and neglected their wives, they would definitely have a bleak future. No change in any kind of civilization could be achieved overnight. The current Qiyuan was still far from achieving equality between men and women. It could only be left to future generations. There would be a day when there would be an opportunity like her previous life. Perhaps when the time was ripe, there would be a sudden change. Perhaps it would be gradual and would be achieved naturally. There wasn't much she could do, but she had to do something. Starting from her, she had to at least let people have this awareness. Perhaps there would be someone who would take over her baton and continue on this path. At this moment, Jingwan really felt that she was incomparably lucky. If it were another man, she would probably have completely extinguished the slightest bit of this idea. As for the method of extinguishing it, there was no need to think about it. This matter isn't urgent yet. You can slowly think about it. There's still time. Let's go. Aren't we going down? Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand and prepared to go down the Immortals viewing platform. Jingwan's eyes curved into crescents. She was in a very good mood. She allowed him to hold her hand. Even when they met other people along the way, she didn't struggle free. The two of them seemed very intimate. Along the way, no matter if it was the people leading the way or following behind, they all pretended to be deaf and mute. They expressed that they didn't hear anything and wouldn't reveal a single word. No one would, not even their closest relatives. However, a group of male compatriots secretly expressed in their hearts that if they wanted to curry favor with Wang Fei and obtain a better future, they absolutely couldn't be fickle in love. However, Yu Zhongqing and Shi Daren's gazes towards the living king of hell were slightly subtle. In the capital, when it came to beauty, Jin Qin Wang would definitely bear the brunt. No matter how the others were, they could all stand to the side. The beauties that he kept in his courtyard were all genuine goods. Could it be that they were all just for show and decorations? Or could it be that Jin Qinhuang's charm was too great that Jin Qinhuang had completely given up his heart and viewed all the beauties in the world as skeletons, leaving only one person in his eyes? If this kind of situation was known by the world, it was very likely that Jin Qinhuang would be labeled as a femme fatale. However, this had nothing to do with them. It was just that along the way they met more and more people, especially the young students. Li Hongyuan didn't say anything. He just had an expressionless face and looked exceptionally cold. Basically, people would take the initiative to step aside and wouldn't come forward to make trouble. It was just that everyone was very curious about the things that happened on the Immortals viewing platform. Jingwan and the others went to another place. It was the Taming Prefecture's treasury. In reality, this treasury actually belonged to Taming Academy. It was even a part of Taming Academy. However, later on, a dean opened this treasury to the public and didn't want to disturb the daily studies of the students in the academy, so it was separated out. This Taming treasury naturally didn't only contain the most detailed history of Taming Prefecture. The collection of books inside was actually very rich. There were even some pornography. Of course, it was stored in a special area and generally couldn't be accessed. 90% of the books in the Taming treasury were freely available to the students of Taming Academy. The remaining 30% were freely available to the public. These books were placed in different buildings, and the numerous buildings were distributed in the large garden. Because all the books, other than the students of Taming Academy, other people couldn't be lent out. However, they could be copied inside. Therefore, there were a lot of people in this garden. No matter if it was reading or copying, it was like this almost every day. Jingwan and the others had quite a lot of people. It didn't seem appropriate for them to go in like a swarm of bees. Thus they spread out outside. Since it was open to the public, then, other than those who were covered in dirt, basically everyone could enter. But even so, the people who came here were mostly scholars. The age range was very large and only a few women were mixed in. Looking around, it was basically quiet. Even if they interacted with each other, it was also whispered. The atmosphere looked very good. To be honest, Jingwan liked this place very much. Jingwan's goal was the history of Taming Prefecture. As for the other books, as long as she wanted, she could naturally find anything. However, seeing this scene, Jingwan wasn't in a hurry. She was ready to look around. Along the way, she met some acquaintances. Although Jingwan said that she didn't want to be disturbed, when they met face to face, they greeted her. Jingwan smiled and nodded in response. On the other hand, Li Hongyuan stood beside Jingwan without saying a word. He seemed to be particularly cold. Although he was good-looking, his aura was scary. Naturally, not many people approached him. Jingwan smiled to herself. After walking around half a circle, Jingwan found a small problem. Most of the people here wore different kinds of clothes. There was a group of people who wore the same clothes. There weren't many people, but they occupied the best position in the entire garden. They were clearly separated from the others. She casually asked the others, It turned out that they were the students of Taming Academy. After all, this was the territory of Taming Academy. As the students of Taming Academy, it seemed to be normal for them to be a little special. Moreover, they only occupied a slightly better place. However, these people seemed to have a kind of attitude of superiority. Looking at it carefully, it seemed to be understandable. After all, these people were outstanding students from all over the country. Moreover, they were generally young. The oldest was not more than 30 years old. It was normal for them to have a sense of superiority. Jingwan was about to pull Li Hongyuan away when she saw a familiar figure. He was also wearing the students' clothes of Taming Academy. If it wasn't the poor scholar from Taming Crispy Restaurant that day, who could it be? Later on, she found out that his surname was Wang, and his name was Zhenxing. It could be seen that he was entrusted with the hopes of his family. As the saying goes, clothes make the man. Most of the time it was true. Take this person for example. He looked much more energetic. Perhaps it was because he had obtained something that he didn't dare to think about before. His whole spirit was different. Therefore it seemed particularly different. However, Jingwan found that Wang Zhenxing seemed to have been pushed aside by others. Although he was in the circle of Taming Academy, but he was all alone in the corner. Generally speaking, when encountering this kind of thing, there might be a problem with his mentality. Looking carefully, very good, no problem. Jingwan's eyes were suddenly covered. She knew who it was. Towards his possessiveness, Jingwan didn't want to correct it. If he didn't want to look, then don't look. 3 other students suddenly came forward. The 2 people at the back were obviously led by the one who took a step forward. That person looked and knew that he was a superior existence in Taming Academy. I heard that your luck was good. You met Jean Qin Wang Fei, who was indignant. She helped you and sent you to Taming Academy. Wang Zhenxing obviously had some understanding. Although from his subtle expression, it could be seen that he was actually impatient from being disturbed. She got up and bowed. Indeed. It's not that Taming Academy didn't have students who entered because of special circumstances, but all of them were recommended by professors or famous scholars. Their talent and learning might be slightly inferior, but their conduct was first class. Regardless of your conduct, you entered because of old Mr. Luo's name card. Who knows where this card came from? Are you questioning Wang Fei Nyang? Wang Zhenxing's brows were tightly knitted, appearing very unhappy. Even when he was disturbed just now, he wasn't like this. I'm not questioning anyone. It's just that it's easy for the imperial family to get a name card, but someone broke the rules of the academy. Very good, Jingwan also understood. The reason why these people pushed aside Wang Zhenxing was not because of him, but because of the person who recommended him. The person who recommended him broke the rules by force. Speaking of which, was her name card obtained by force? Was it considered breaking the rules? Moreover, Yuan, why do I feel that this person seems to have a big opinion about the imperial family? Jingwan said softly. There are many people who have opinions about the imperial family, especially in the south. Li Hongyuan said indifferently. Moreover, Li Hongyuan didn't control his volume. Everyone who should have heard it, including those who were originally watching the show, all looked over. Others might not recognize them, but Wang Zhenxing hurriedly came over to greet them. Greetings to your highness, Wang Fei. No need for formalities. Jingwan raised her hand. The atmosphere was naturally a little awkward when he said bad things about the person in question and was heard by the person in question. However, that person's face flashed with uneasiness. Perhaps he wanted to show off his righteousness. He even puffed out his chest, forgetting that he should come over to greet them. The others looked at each other and hurriedly came forward to greet them. They were noble and virtuous, but it didn't mean that they could look down on the imperial family. After all, most of them wanted to learn martial arts and sell it to the imperial family. No one was stupid enough to offend a prince. Thus the atmosphere was a little strange. Li Hongyuan looked at him for a moment. Pei family? He laughed lightly, but it was obvious that he was ridiculing him. The other party's face immediately turned ugly. Perhaps it wasn't only because of Li Hongyuan's ridicule, but also because of some other discovery. Jingwon also found some clues from Li Hongyuan's words about the other party's identity. The other party seemed to look a little like her husband. If he was from the Pei family, it wouldn't be strange. The King of Hell could tell the other party's identity from his face, and that person's expression also seemed to indicate that he had seen through Li Hongyuan's identity. In this case, he might even be a member of the current Pei family. It wasn't impossible for him to be a cousin of Li Hongyuan. The Pei clan is noble and virtuous. They don't enter the imperial court, but they have quite a number of famous people. Famous scholars have students all over the world. The Pei clan's disciples even go out to study and make friends. Everyone knows what they are thinking. This prince's temper has always been bad. Sometimes I will do things that are out of line. Jingwon could feel that his current mood seemed to be somewhat bad. It seemed that he had resentment towards the Pei family, but it also seemed that he didn't have anything. The other party's face was green and white. In fact, this was a well-known matter. The Pei family used the name of self-protection, but in reality, what was going on? Everyone was guessing. It was a publicly recognized secret. The Pei family would come out sooner or later and return to the imperial court. What they needed now was probably a suitable opportunity. The Pei family was Jiangnan's #1 family. They had not declined for so many years. Thinking about it, they would absolutely not be willing to be silent forever. Pei Zhuoqing knew that her family was using the child left behind by her aunt as one of the opportunities. That's right, one of the opportunities. It was very obvious that the family had other plans. It was just that he did not know about it. The family had always been very concerned about the prince left behind by her aunt. It was just that because of some reasons, they had never contacted him. He was actually not interested in this matter, so he did not ask about it. Otherwise, he would not be ignorant when people were right under his eyes. It was fine if he did not pay attention. After careful observation, he discovered that he and his grandmother looked very alike, especially that pair of eyes. It was said that that aunt looked the most like grandmother. Moreover, the other party was a prince. It was impossible to deny that he was that aunt's son. He came to Jiangnan. The family definitely knew about it. Unexpectedly, they did not tell him before. Otherwise it would not be so awkward. Speaking about it, the one who sent the poor scholar to the Enlightened Academy should be his cousin-in-law. What was this? Just when Jingwon wanted to persuade a few words to break the deadlock, another young man appeared. He was wearing a scholar's robe. He looked refined and elegant. Stepping forward, he clasped his hands in front of Li Hongyuan and Jingwon. Greetings to Wang Ye and Wang Fei. My teacher, old Mr. Luo, invites the two of you to have a chat. Jingwon's eyes slightly brightened. Granduncle. He is in the Enlightened Mansion. Although this granduncle was always wandering outside, his whereabouts were uncertain, but it did not mean that he never went back. Jingwon had seen him 2 or 3 times. Based on appearance, granduncle and grandfather actually looked very alike. If it was not for the age difference of nearly 5 years, people would believe that they were twins. Unexpectedly, they could meet at the Enlightened Mansion. It was really unexpected. Yes, teacher arrived at the Enlightened Mansion the day before yesterday. Hearing that someone used his name card to send someone to the Enlightened Academy, he asked in detail and learned that it was you, Wang Fei. Teacher said that he had not seen his family for a long time and missed them. But now that Wang Fei's status is high, he originally planned to wait for a day to reorganize before sending the name card. But just now he heard that he saw Wang Fei here, so he ordered this student to invite you. I also have not seen granduncle for a long time. Now that I have met him, it is very good. Jingwon's words expressed her joy. Wang Ye. Since he is Wang Fei's granduncle, naturally I should meet him. Let's go. Li Hongyuan nodded. Everyone knew that old Mr. Luo had no wife or children and was closest to an older brother. This older brother was previously the Minister of Rights and was currently the Minister of Appointments. Thinking about it, to be able to become a Wangfei, she must be his direct descendant. To a certain extent, wasn't it the same as being old Mr. Luo's direct descendant? With the honor of Wangfei, using grandfather's name card to send someone to the academy seemed to be completely fine. It was simply unreasonable for them to reject Wang Zhenxing. Moreover, according to Wang Zhenxing's situation that day, Jean Wangfei was clearly someone who held righteousness in her heart. Because that Luo Daran was promoted to the Minister of Appointments, old Mr. Luo, this great scholar's status rose even more. It was still that sentence: 9 out of 10 scholars were aspiring to be in the imperial court. First, there was the great scholar's benefactor as a teacher. Then there was the benefactor's senior brother who was in charge of the Ministry of Appointments. This condition was simply too good. Countless students flocked to this old Mr. Luo like a flock of ducks. It was a pity that this old Mr. Luo had already stopped accepting disciples 2 years ago. At most, he was lecturing at a certain academy. But his whereabouts were really erratic. Today he was here, tomorrow he could be in another place. His whereabouts were unknown. However, this kind of person having a little bit of eccentricity was actually normal. Carefully glancing at Pei Zhuqing's strangely bad complexion, what was that, as if he did not see anything? And Pei Zhuqing, who carelessly lost her face, unconsciously clenched her fists. Turning her head back, she fiercely glared at a certain little follower behind her. He had returned home a few days ago and had only returned to Taming Academy this morning. Being whispered in his ear by other people. He had always despised people who broke the rules. That was why he had a moment ago. The result was that he was actually used by other people, making people laugh at him like this. At this time, his complexion was a little green. He directly flicked his sleeves and left. How to handle this matter? He still had to think carefully. If his family members really pressed the opportunity on him, and his relationship with him was strained. Also, he seemed to have a lot of opinions about Pei family members. This was not a good thing. He could not say that he would have to go back again. Digression. Today Bao Bao was too clingy, relatively less. Dear ones, please forgive. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653501 HTML chapter error. Click here to report exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember this book's initial domain name. www.bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken. Chapter 283. Jingwan's granduncle Luo Peisong. Although he wasn't a professor at Taming Academy and didn't stay there for long, he still had a small courtyard in Taming Academy. It was really small, with only 3 rooms. The rest of the space was about the same size as his room. The 3 rooms, one for study, one for receiving guests, and one for sleeping. Of course, the bedroom was divided into the inner and outer rooms. The outer rooms were for the people who took care of him. Usually, they were disciples or servants sent by disciples. In short, there was no need to worry about him lacking people. For example, the person leading Jingwan and the others was Luo Peisong's last disciple. He was taken in 3 years ago and had been by Luo Peisong's side for 3 years. He also came from a family with hundreds of years of history. Although his family didn't have a high-ranking official like Luo Peishan, but overall, they were much stronger than the Luo family. After all, the Luo family could only be considered as a branch of Luo Peishan. Because he was the youngest son in the family, he didn't have to worry about his parents not having anyone to be filial to. On the other hand, he didn't feel any urgency to continue the family line. His family requested it, and he agreed, so he stayed by Luo Peisong's side. Speaking of which, Jingwan did not know that Li Hongyuan actually knew this person. He was one of the mainstays of the imperial court when Li Hongyuan was in power in his previous life. Because of Li Hongyuan himself, He preferred to use young talents. Therefore, the imperial court tended to be younger, unlike the current aging trend. Li Hongyuan was a tyrant, but he was impeccable when it came to governing. Moreover, he didn't stick to one type of talent. As long as he took a liking to someone's talent, not to mention jumping 3 levels, he could even let you reach the heavens in a single step. One day you might be living in poverty, the next day you might be an extremely powerful official, holding the power of life and death. Of course, this was only an exception. Even so, it was still an opportunity for young people. Many people had great ambitions and lofty aspirations. This person was now a high scholar, and had made a name for himself when he was young. However, he gradually fell into silence until 2 years later, when he participated in the imperial examinations with the Luo brothers. Not only was he a high scholar in the imperial examinations, he was also the top scholar in the imperial examinations. For a period of time he was in the limelight. Furthermore, because he didn't have a wife and didn't even have a fiancé, he was chased by countless high-ranking officials and nobles, all of whom wanted him as their son-in-law. His surname was Jiang, and his given name was Wanli. This name was rather simple and crude. Jingwan jokingly asked him if his elder brother was still 100 miles away. In the end, he said that he was more than that. 1, 2, 3, all of them were accounted for. Jingwan wanted to ask if his parents had a grudge against the first few children. After all, they were from a big family, a family of literature and etiquette. Do you need to put more effort into naming things? Moreover, the later ones were thousands of miles, while the earlier ones were 1 to 3 miles. Just because they were born early, they deserved to be unlucky? Jingwan asked about her granduncle's situation. After all, only the 2 elders of the Luo family knew about his situation, and they probably only spoke a few words. He was not a young man anymore. How could she not worry about him when he was away all year round? Moreover, Jingwan could count the number of times she had seen him. However, to some extent, their relationship at that time was actually much better than that of her biological grandfather, Luo Peishan. At that time, Luo Peishan's mind was elsewhere, and he did not seem to be easy to get close to. This granduncle was different. Perhaps it was because he did not have his own descendants, but he treated his elder brother's descendants well. As for Jingwan, because of her relationship with Madame Luo, he loved her as well as her crow. When Madame Luo first got married, Luo Peisong was in the rebellious period. Perhaps it was because his elder brother took care of him, but he was the kind of person who matured late. It was a headache for his parents, so they directly threw him to their eldest son, who was very responsible. At that time, Luo Peishan had just taken office and did not have the time to take care of him. Therefore, this rebellious son could become a famous scholar in the world today. Luo Peisong was afraid of his eldest sister-in-law, but he also admired her. Jingwan spent more time with Madame Luo, so he could not see her every time when he came back. Perhaps because Jingwan was just concerned about her elders, Li Hongyuan did not go crazy. When Jingwan saw Luo Peisong, he was playing chess with a doctor from the academy. They had not seen each other for several years, but he had not changed much. He was in good spirits and his eyes were not cloudy. Perhaps it was because he was away all year round, but he was also darker than ordinary old men. Although the courtyard was small, it was well decorated. It could be seen that it was taken care of carefully on weekdays. It was not neglected because of the owner's absence. As the saying goes, don't speak while watching a chess game. Before the game ended, no one spoke. Jingwan was not proficient in chess, but she could see that her granduncle was at a disadvantage. However, looking at the carefree look on the old man's face, he did not care at all. Luo Peishan stroked his beard and raised his head to look at Jingwan. Little girl, you've already grown so big. Time really doesn't spare anyone. I see that granduncle is still the same as before. He is in good health, Jingwan said with a smile. You little girl, your mouth is still so sweet. Luo Peishan nodded slightly, with a hint of indulgence, but also a little helplessness. Not only Jiang Wanli, but also the doctor opposite him was a little surprised. They knew that although Luo Peisong was not difficult to get along with, he was not easy to get close to. He also had some little quirks. It was rare to see him smile all day long. He was completely different from the old fox Luo Peishan who mingled in the officialdom. They did not think that there was such a side to him. You are already married. You are not a little girl. Jingwan was still smiling. Don't say that you are married. Even if you gave birth to a child in this old man's eyes, you are still a little girl. Come. Help granduncle see if this game can be saved. Granduncle, you are making things difficult for me. My chess skills are absolutely average, but... Jingwan pushed Li Hongyuan out. Look for your grandniece's son-in-law. Luo Peisong seemed to have just noticed that there was such a big living person. His eyes wandered around Li Hongyuan's face before he slowly got up. The old doctor opposite him also got up. This commoner greets Jin Wangye. How could Li Hongyuan not understand? This was clearly showing that he did not want to see him. This was quite normal. For those who knew his bad reputation but did not know anything else, as long as they sincerely treated Jingwan well, there probably would not be two who would want to see him. If they really wanted to see him, then he would really be unhappy. Therefore, there was no joy or anger on his face as he indifferently returned the greeting. Old sir is too polite. Luo Peisong's heart flashed with astonishment. This seemed to be different from what he had expected. Jingwan was the younger generation that he liked. When she got married, although he could not rush back, it was still very easy for him to understand this grandniece's son-in-law. After all, he had so many disciples and grand-disciples, it was still very easy to inquire about them. But the result that he got was simply terrible. Because of this, he even sent a letter to his elder brother, scolding the elder brother that he had always respected. However, his elder brother's reply was ambiguous and the words were not clear. He felt that there was something strange from it. Then he thought about how much his eldest sister-in-law treasured this girl. Perhaps the matter was not so bad. But after all, it was His Majesty's imperial edict. Even if he did not agree, it was impossible. Therefore, he temporarily reserved his attitude. Now it seemed that the former was more likely. Luo Peisong stroked his beard. This girl has never talked big. Since she recommended you, she must have some skills. If you win this game, the rest will be easy to talk about. If you lose this game, if he lost, then it was hard to say what would happen. Li Hongyuan glanced at Jingwan. Jingwan looked back at him with a smile. Do your best. Li Hongyuan faintly raised his eyebrows. Did his wife mean that there was no need to be polite? Since it was his wife's instruction, then sorry. Don't blame him for not being lenient. Li Hongyuan did not sit on Luo Peisong's seat. He just picked up a chess piece and placed it on the chessboard. The professor on the other side did not have any objections. He placed his chess piece very quickly, looking very confident. The others became bystanders. In the beginning, the white chess piece was still at a disadvantage. However, when Li Hongyuan placed a chess piece, the game was suddenly reversed. Almost everyone looked at Li Hongyuan in disbelief. This person had actually started to set up a trap from the moment he placed his first piece. Not only that, he even led his opponent into the trap step by step without realizing it. This was not just taking one step and looking 3 steps ahead. It was simply taking one step and looking 10 steps ahead. It was so exquisite. When they looked at Li Hongyuan again, it was a bit like looking at a monster. The old professor seemed unwilling to give up and continued. Li Hongyuan did not hold back. He completely did not know what it meant to respect the old and love the young. He killed the old professor without leaving a single piece of armor behind. The consequences of his last struggle seemed to have become a little worse. The old professor stared at the chessboard for a moment before slowly opening his mouth. Young people nowadays are really amazing. Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first. He did not know if he was angry or if he had been hit too hard. He did not wait for Luo Peisong and the others to respond. He stood up and left. Jingwan secretly pinched Li Hongyuan. Humble. Does he know what humility is? Li Hongyuan did not bat an eyelid, as if he did not feel the pain at all. He only gave Jingwan a rather innocent look when no one was looking. Jingwan inexplicably understood his meaning. She was so angry that her teeth itched and she wanted to bite him viciously. Only then did Luo Peisong retract his attention from the chessboard and look at Li Hongyuan seriously. I have to say that this commoner has a whole new level of respect for your highness. However, it is better to leave a way out. Not only do you leave a way out for others, you also leave a way out for yourself. After all, this way out is the escape route of others, and it could also be your escape route. Just now, I benefited from old teacher's teachings. You said it first, so this prince did not dare to lose. Therefore this prince did his best. Li Hongyuan said humbly. The corner of Luo Peisong's mouth twitched. So, he did it on purpose just now. Just because I have a problem with him. Such vengeance for the smallest grievance was truly the style of the living king of hell. Moreover, should I thank him for using such a gentle method, and not as simple and crude as he did in the capital? Last, this man is too handsome. No matter how you look at him, he is not reliable. Moreover, this man is vicious and treacherous. He does things without leaving any leeway. So, don't foolishly believe everything he says. Otherwise, you will only be fooled by him without knowing it. Luo Peisong said, sincerely and earnestly, to Jingwan. Li Hongyuan's face instantly darkened. For the sake of Wan and her family, as long as they were sincere about her, he could reluctantly tolerate them. However, if they tried to sow discord between them, he would immediately classify them as rivals in love, and get rid of them quickly. He would destroy them in seconds. Jingwan looked at him and knew that he seemed to have been stepped on again. She hurriedly pulled him and stood in front of him. In the end, Granduncle was also an old man. How could he bear the anger of the living king of hell? Granduncle, you are wrong. I don't know whether Ah Yuan is reliable or not to others, but to me he is absolutely reliable. He is an indomitable man. Even if he wants to play tricks on me, there is no malice. He will never target me with his vicious methods. This has nothing to do with whether he is handsome or not. Moreover, no matter how handsome he is still benefiting me. Therefore you can say anything about him, but you can't sow discord between us. Luo Peisong's gaze landed on Jingwan, then on Li Hongyuan, whose face was overflowing with spring. He repeated this a few times. Well, even if he had never experienced love, he could tell that the two of them were as good as the same person. This man, who was said to be a playboy and lustful, had placed this girl at the top of his heart. He was afraid that she would fall when he held her in his hands, and afraid that she would melt when he held her in his mouth. He did everything as he pleased, but when it came to this girl, if he said anything wrong, he would definitely lose his face. Looking at one girl's posture, if he made a mistake, she was the kind of person who would make a move at any time. Well, he worried for nothing. It was his elder brother's reply. Everything else was not clear, but this point made him feel at ease. Okay. In broad daylight you are pulling and pulling. What a scandal. You are deliberately trying to provoke this lonely old man, right? Jingwan coughed dryly. Only then did she notice that rather than saying that she was blocking someone, it was better to say that someone took the opportunity to take her into his arms. She took a step forward and broke away. Look at what Granduncle said. It is you who is not willing to marry. If you were willing, even now, that teenage girl would be happy to throw herself into your arms. If you want me to say, as long as you agree, maybe tomorrow I will have a granduncle who is younger than me. Don't you think so? You lass, after getting married, you really don't know how to write the word reserved anymore. You even dare to tease your own granduncle. Is there anyone who talks like you? Do you think I am old enough to harm teenage girls? If I wanted to marry a wife, I would have done so decades ago. Back then, your granduncle was also handsome and elegant. The number of girls who liked me could line up from the north gate to the south gate of the city. I didn't have such thoughts at all. I didn't have such thoughts in the past, and I definitely won't now. You can forget about this mouth of yours in front of your own family, but you should restrain yourself outside. Yes, yes, yes. Granduncle is the most handsome. You were handsome when you were young, and you are still handsome when you are old. You lass, is this the main point? Then he looked at Li Hongyuan, whose face was dark, and his mood suddenly became quite good. This man was like a child who could not tolerate his wife saying the word good about any man other than him, even if it was just a joke or a compliment. How much did he care about her to have such a possessive desire? This kind of man was rare in the world. Let's not talk about this. I haven't seen your grandfather and grandmother for a long time. How are they? Granduncle, you don't have to worry. Grandfather and grandmother are very good. I don't know if grandfather told you that eldest brother and sister-in-law have an eldest son, third brother and third sister-in-law have an eldest daughter, second brother's marriage is also settled, and all the sisters who are married are having happy events one after another. Except for a few things that don't go well, there are no other problems. That's good, that's good. By the way, I have a teaching book on fine brushwork in my hand. In front of outsiders, Jingwan could actually be righteous, but in front of trusted relatives, Jingwan always felt a little guilty. Your grandfather told me that you have been advising your third brother a lot. It is the Luo family's fortune to have a daughter like you. Those who didn't know would just think that Jingwan put a lot of effort into the book like Luo Jingbua. After all, this idea was not hidden from outsiders, but those who knew would naturally understand that it was far more than that. I am the daughter of the Luo family, and the Luo family treats me well. Not only am I an elder brother, but I should do something for the Luo family. You are a good child. Your grandmother has always said so, and in fact it is true. Back then, if your grandmother allowed me to take you to travel the world, there would be no one else around me. Luo Peisong said with emotion. Jingwan was surprised. There is such a thing. She had never heard her grandmother mention it. How could there not be? Your grandmother directly gave me a fierce beating. She was so ruthless that it was comparable to the time when she forced me to straighten my back. Your grandmother said that I was not serious at all, and that I was a bad influence on her darling. She had to break my legs, throw me out of the Luo family, and never let me take half a step back in the house. Perhaps it was because he thought of the taste of pleasure. Luo Peisong's body couldn't help but tremble a little. Jingwan was overjoyed, and she almost choked from laughing. Li Hongyuan helplessly patted her back. Granduncle, you can't take me away. If you choose one of my brothers, grandfather and grandmother will definitely be happy. What do I need them for? They are all blockheads, and they don't have the slightest bit of spirit. It is simply a disgrace to bring such people out. Besides, how can a stinky brat be as considerate as a little girl? Then, Luo Peisong began to criticize all the disciples he had taught. In short, in his eyes, there was not a single good person. As for Jiang Wanli, who had been respectfully standing by the side, Jingwan felt that he had a dumbfounded expression on his face since the beginning. He probably didn't expect his teacher to be such a teacher. He was a little disillusioned, and even a little on the verge of collapse. And when he talked about all kinds of things that didn't go his way, he felt guilty. It was all because he didn't do well that he wronged his teacher. And in Jingwan's view, this was purely granduncle showing off. Several of his brothers could be called blockheads by him, and his disciples were not few in number. If this wasn't showing off, what was it? After saying these, they talked about Li Hongyuan's task in Zhongnan. Like the older people, Luo Peisong only knew about the academy examination for the time being. But this matter seemed to have stepped on his reverse scale. He was especially resentful, and his face was livid. If you need my help, just tell me. I still have some connections in the scholarly community. This prince thanks old Mr. in advance. But this time it's better for people not to interfere. On the surface, it's cheating in the academy examination, but secretly it's also related to the salt policy. The amount is too large and the water is too deep. There are many dangers, so old Mr. shouldn't get involved. Moreover, this prince has enough ideas. Luo Peisong was shocked. He looked at Li Hongyuan, and his eyes became more subtle. Your Highness trusts this commoner. You are the granduncle of this prince's wife. This prince can give enough trust to people close to her. Your Highness is so confident that he's conceited. He looked at his disciple meaningfully. Of course, it's not that he didn't trust his disciple, but he felt that Li Hongyuan shouldn't trust people easily. Since you know there's danger, why are you still bringing this girl? Wan's safest place is always by my side. Digression, these 2 days, the baby has been really clingy. During the day she went to the park, and at night she still held her and refused to let go. She really didn't have much time to write, please forgive her. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653503. HTML We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken. Chapter 284. The safest place for Wan will always be by my side, Li Hongyuan said matter-of-factly without even thinking. Luo Peisong was speechless at his conceited words. He was not conceited, but he cared too much about her. He cared so much that he would not feel at ease unless she was under his nose. He cared so much that he did not want to leave her in the care of anyone else. It could only be said that he had let Jingwan leave and never come back in his previous life, which had cast a shadow over his heart. He would never allow such a thing to happen again. Moreover, he could barely restrain himself when he did not have her. Now that he had her, he could not bear to let her out of his sight for too long. Although there was no specific time limit, it was at most a few hours. After that, he would be in a bad mood, irritable or even anxious. It was as if his obsession had been upgraded. He knew that there was something wrong with him, but he did not want to control it, nor did he want to change it. From the perspective of any woman in the Qi Yuan dynasty, she probably would not feel that her husband cared too much about her. Wherever he went, he would take her with him. She would not feel that there was anything wrong with her husband being angry when she paid attention to or talked to another man. She would only feel extra happy and satisfied. From Jingwan's perspective, Li Hongyuan's excessive possessiveness did not make her feel uncomfortable. She felt that she had lost herself because of her background and her own reasons. After all, no matter how crazy she yearned for freedom, she could not do something that was not tolerated by others. Jingwan was not at that level. Moreover, although Li Hongyuan was possessive, he did not do anything that would make others feel uncomfortable. Jingwan smiled faintly. Granduncle, if His Highness did not take me with him, I would probably never have the chance to go out and sightseeing. According to my original intention, I would definitely be willing to go out with you. But you see, not to mention grandmother, even grandfather would not allow it. But His Highness is different. If anyone else wants to bring me out for a sightseeing tour, including myself, they will definitely be stopped. Only His Highness is not. And since he already anticipated that there might be danger, His Highness will naturally arrange everything well. Even if we encounter the worst situation, at least we won't have to worry at that moment. I think it's quite good. If I can encounter the worst situation just by going out for a trip, then this prince doesn't need to live anymore. Li Hongyuan was a little dissatisfied with Jingwan's words. Jingwan rolled her eyes at him. I'm saying, what if? There's no what if. Hey, that's enough, Jingwan said helplessly. Sometimes she really felt that this man was quite childish. Only then did Luo Peisong feel that the two of them had had enough. They were always provoking a loner like him, making him want to find a wife at his age. He stopped and waved his hand decisively. Do whatever you want. His Highness doesn't need to care so much. If you really need it, just say the word. In that case, this prince won't be polite with old teacher. Whether he agreed verbally or not was one thing, Whether he would use it or not was another. Course nothing was absolute. Zhang Wanli was not called away by Luo Peisong. He just quietly waited on the side, waiting for tea. He was gentle and handsome, really worthy of the name. He was very consistent with Li Hongyuan's impression of him. It was just that when this person did things, he was swift and decisive. There were more and more acquaintances. In the beginning you knew the ins and outs of others, but they knew nothing about you. Li Hongyuan had a subtle sense of superiority in his heart, but gradually that was the case. No matter how much you knew, you might not have the ability to do anything. He was the only one who knew the hardships in the beginning. However, in his eyes those were nothing. Everything he had done was for today and for the future. Currently he was very satisfied with everything. When they were chatting happily, Su Ting finally returned to the provincial governor's manor. However, she was stopped at the door and was given all kinds of difficulties. Even if she revealed her identity, she could not enter the house. The gatekeeper confidently said that their miss was staying at home well. Their miss was so noble and dignified. How could she dress like this? Moreover, there were servants everywhere, and she was surrounded by people. Don't think that just because you have a face like their miss, you can come and blackmail her. Su Ting only felt that her ankle was in excruciating pain. She didn't need to look at it to know that it was red and swollen. She had always been spoiled and would occasionally be lectured by her elder sister. However, there was a huge age gap between them. When her elder sister wasn't married, she was still young. Most of the time, her elder sister would only speak harshly to her. After she got married, they met less and less often. Hence, even a little pain on her body would make her extremely uncomfortable. Being stopped at this time, she really felt wronged. In the end, she said ruthlessly that unless she died immediately, as long as she entered this door, she would definitely not let this lowly servant off. The old maid guarding the door was scared and hesitated for a moment. Su Ting, you are really impressive. Who will you not let off? This is my arrangement. What, you won't let me off too? There was only one person who would deliberately emphasize that her name was changed. Su Ting was silent and did not speak. She really did not want to use her current appearance to face this official sister. However, things did not go as she wished. Su Ting's official sister unhurriedly stepped forward and pulled her, forcing her to turn around. Seeing her sorry figure, her lips curled into a smile. Oh, our Kai Ming Fu's #1 beauty, didn't you go to find Jean Wang yet? Looking at this, you didn't succeed. But thinking about it, unless Jean Wang's eyes are bad, he would not take a fancy to you like this, right? Su Ting seemed to have reacted at this moment. It's you who forced me to dress like this? You're not that stupid, ah. That's right, it was all arranged by me. I knew that if you succeeded, it would be disadvantageous to me. Course I had to do something. Sitting and waiting for death is not my style. However, I feel that even if I didn't do anything, you probably wouldn't have succeeded. Almost being thrown down from the Immortals viewing platform. What does it feel like? So, not only did she scheme against her, she also sent someone to follow her. Su Ting had always hated this official sister. Now she hated her even more. This was her last chance, and it was destroyed like this. She hated. Su Ting's official sister had never seen her like this, as if she couldn't wait to eat human blood and eat human flesh. Although there were similar looks in the past, it was never this intense. She subconsciously took a step back. After realizing what she had done, her face turned ashen. Hate it. I want to see what other tricks you can come up with. Flicking her sleeves, she stepped into the door first. This time there was no one to stop her. Su Ting limped in. The servant girl who served her anxiously watched from the shadows. When she saw someone, she hurriedly stepped forward. Miss! Su Ting didn't say anything, only letting the servant girl help her back. It wasn't that she didn't think of escaping from this house, but she knew that she would definitely not succeed. As long as there was the slightest movement, she would be caught and brought back. The consequences. Su Ting found that her aunt was waiting for her. She was originally a first-class beauty. Even though she was almost 40 years old, she was still beautiful. There weren't many traces of age on her face. When she saw Su Ting, her eyebrows didn't even twitch. When she saw that Su Ting's leg was injured, she asked someone to bring her medicine. When the servant girl was applying medicine for Su Ting, she stood at the side. My intention in telling you this was to let you be mentally prepared, but I didn't expect you to have other thoughts. However, if I don't let you do it, you probably won't give up. If you succeed, your father won't say anything. However, the person he likes more is still the person he originally liked. You should be able to feel it yourself. The reason isn't clear, but you can't expect your father to have any kind of father-daughter relationship. Don't expect him to have any sympathy. He will be merciful. Now that things have come to this, you only have two choices. Either you die, or you follow your father's arrangements. Death requires guts and courage. If you have it, then be more decisive. Don't do things that seek death. There won't be any results. The one who will suffer is still yourself. If you don't want to die, then think carefully. When you reach that person, you may not end up the same as others. Everything has to be done to know the result. If you blindly treat it with a negative attitude and don't do anything, naturally there won't be any results. After all, that kind of man, you can't expect him to like your face. If you throw a tantrum at him, he will obediently serve you. You should take out the attitude you treat Jin Qinwang. A man's body is even less worth pursuing. As long as it's not unbearable to look at, it's enough. That's all I have to say. You're on your own now. She flicked her sleeves and left. Su Ting's tears fell pitter-patter. The more she cried, the fiercer she became, until she wailed loudly. After crying, she still had to face what she had to face. After crying, Su Ting let people prepare water for her. She bathed, changed her clothes, and put on makeup. She was the #1 beauty of Kai Ming Fu, so she should have the appearance and posture of the #1 beauty. After carefully tidying up, she became a veritable beauty. Only compared to the past, her body seemed to have more quiet and reserved. In some people's eyes, it would probably be more attractive. In other people's eyes, it would probably feel that she had become dull, no longer that flirtatious. And Su Ting's elder sister went to see her biological mother, the governor's wife, to talk about some intimate things between mother and daughter. She didn't know why, but she talked about Su Ting again. Unlike in the past, the governor's wife no longer treated her coldly. Instead, she opened her mouth to let her daughter not make things difficult for her. She's just a pitiful person. Mother, why did you suddenly say that? She remembered when that woman appeared how sad her mother was. Her mother hated her so much at that time. Even after she got over it, she still didn't have a good expression towards that mother and daughter. Although she was surprised, but she still noticed her mother's strange mood. Mother, did something happen? It's nothing. Some things couldn't be said, and she didn't want to erase her daughter's last bit of admiration for her biological father. If she knew that her own father was so ruthless and heartless, she wouldn't know how sad she would be. Originally, she wanted to say something, but seeing that her mother didn't want to say anything more, she didn't ask anymore. Somehow, she felt that it wasn't something good. Governor Su didn't know when he returned to the Fu. He asked someone to call Su Ting over. Looking at her bearing and expression, it seemed that she already knew what happened, so she didn't say much. Instead, he became a loving father again, letting her recuperate well. But he didn't ask how she got hurt. What he was concerned about was the words and actions of Li Hongyuan and Jingwan during Su Ting's trip. Su Ting also told him everything in detail. Although it wasn't word for word, but there wasn't any error, and she didn't bring in any personal strong emotions. After Governor Su finished listening, there wasn't any strange expression on his face. He sent Su Ting away and then sat at a distance, drinking tea while thinking quietly. The final point was actually Jin Qinwang consort. Luo Peisong stayed for dinner. Whether Li Hongyuan was willing or not, as long as Jingwan nodded, it would be fine. Anyway, Luo Peisong could see that on this kind of small matter, There was no need to ask for someone's opinion. If Jingwan said yes, he wouldn't say anything against it. It was simply, the husband follows the wife's lead. As the elder of the woman's family, there was nothing more worth being happy about. After all, Luo Peisong's fear towards the living king of hell was not as deep as his own elder brother. If he had something to say, then just say it. If he scolded, then just scold him. At most, he would just leave after 2 days. There was no need to worry that he would be put in a tight spot. However, Luo Peisong found that he still underestimated the tolerance of the living king of hell. When it came to Wanner's matter, his heart might be smaller than the tip of a needle, but for other matters, he wasn't as vengeful as what he heard. Even if he really pointed at his nose and scolded him, his expression wouldn't change. He knew that one played a part in this, but he could also see that this person was getting more and more unfathomable. Without power or influence, without a single redeeming feature. Perhaps this was the biggest variable in this fight for the throne. Luo Peisong drifted outside the capital, but it didn't mean that he was completely indifferent to the Luo family's matters. On the contrary, the Luo family had someone he cared about the most. They were his roots. He knew very well that if one of them rose or fell, all of them would fall. He was free and unfettered outside not because of his elder brother. He believed that if something happened to the Luo family, even if he wasn't implicated, he would definitely be ostracized when he walked outside in the future. It was possible that he would die in any corner in order to eliminate the root of the problem. Thinking of this, Luo Peisong felt that perhaps he should return to the capital and have a good chat with his elder brother. Luo Peisong's meals were the same as the other professors. They were all distributed by the people of the Taming Academy. When they learned that the prince and princess were present, they naturally had to add more dishes. However, even if they added more, they weren't like the officials of the Taming mansion who put in all kinds of effort. In terms of the number of dishes, they were far less. At this time, he seemed to have a good appetite for the derogatory remarks of the officials of the Taming mansion. Because Jingwan was present, they didn't ask Zhang Wanli to avoid them. Once again, they used one table for one table, and added Yu Zhongqing and Lord Shi. After his impression of Li Hongyuan changed, Luo Peisong didn't deliberately pick on him. He spoke to Li Hongyuan calmly. Li Hongyuan still didn't speak much, but no matter what was said, he could respond. Moreover, he could always hit the nail on the head and even hit the nail on the head. It was absolutely no problem for him to talk about books and studies. Except for Jingwan, there was probably no one who wasn't surprised. Although Zhang Wanli was introverted and not flamboyant, he was confident that among the younger generation, there weren't many people who could be compared to him in terms of talent and learning. It wasn't strange to meet someone like him. However, it was really surprising that this person was a prince, a young prince. There were a lot of things that princes needed to learn, but no one would ever train them to be knowledgeable and talented. If they were barely on the same level in terms of talent and learning, then Prince Jin's understanding of everything was far from his. He seemed to be standing at a height that was difficult for others to reach, with the bearing of pointing out the country. Not to mention him benefiting, even Luo Peisong unexpectedly gained enlightenment from it. Thinking about it, Li Hongyuan had experienced the past life and the present life. Even if he had experienced all the years, he still fell short of Luo Peisong by a large margin. He had experienced the sorrows of life, tasted all the heartache, experienced the movements of the country, saw all the tragedies of the battlefield, and also made a country swaying in the wind and rain to become prosperous. In the end, he even tasted death. In all these aspects, there were few people who could be compared to him. Naturally, he had a broad view, a wide view, and a deep understanding. And Luo Peisong, even if he was a great scholar, his understanding of life was still much narrower. Not to mention, he basically didn't touch on the important matters of ruling the country. Listening to a monarch's words was better than reading 10 years of books. Zhang Wanli sincerely bowed to Li Hongyuan, because Li Hongyuan's words even filled in his shortcomings. Speaking of which, Li Hongyuan deliberately did this. After all, He was also clear about Jiang Wanli's shortcomings in the beginning. Now, he filled in for him and shortened the detours in his official career, so that in the future, he could work harder and faster for him. If the people under him were able to do things well, then he, as the boss, would be more relaxed. Only by being a hands-off shopkeeper could he be free and at ease, without any worries. And Luo Peisong's favorable impression of Li Hongyuan, which was -100, directly soared to a +100. All kinds of displeasing to the eye became all kinds of pleasing to the eye. Jingwan's eyes turned and she sighed in her heart. Should she say that he was still the living king of hell? Once he wanted to please someone, there was no one who couldn't be easily won over. Although the current situation was far from the extent of pleasing, at most, it could be considered as casually brushing up the favorability, but the effect was really too good, really too good. And throughout the whole process, the only one who remained silent was Yu Zhongqing. After all, he was a military general. Although he still studied, he was still too far behind these people. Of course, what he didn't understand was only some things from the books. As for current affairs, his understanding was probably second only to Li Hongyuan. After all, he stayed by Lu Qingdi's side every day and listened to everything. As long as he wasn't too stupid, he should understand what he didn't understand after a long time. However, he was still shocked by Li Hongyuan. He had witnessed Li Hongyuan's ruthlessness and means, as well as his wisdom and foresight. He felt that it was a waste for Emperor Lu Qingdi to give up such an excellent son. At the same time, he was even more curious about the reason why His Majesty did so. https://www.bikin.com/11/11807/6653507. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bikin.com. Bikin.com mobile version reading website. Bikin. Chapter 285. These people were completely convinced by Li Hongyuan. Even Jingwan, who had seen part of his talent and ability, also sincerely admired him at this time. However, this kind of admiration did not last for 3 seconds. Li Hongyuan turned back and under the cover of the wine cup, he smiled a little proudly at Jingwan as if to say, "Look, you are so easily convinced." Jingwan couldn't help but want to facepalm. What was with this feeling of asking for praise? It must be an illusion. As a result, a little doubt arose in Jingwan's heart. Some things could be learned quickly, but some things could not be learned. Since he was born, it was said that he had never left the capital. How could he have those experiences that were far beyond the mind? All these questions were thrown out of the sky by him. In the end, Luo Peisong said that he would stay in Taming Mansion for a while until Jingwan and the others left. Then he would leave. As for the next destination, since he had the idea of returning to the capital and had no other clear plans, it was better to go directly to the capital. At that time he would leave his letter and name card. That can't be better. Grandfather and grandmother will be very happy. If we can stay here, they will probably be even happier. Jingwan said with a smile. That's hard to say. After all, I'm not young anymore. I've made your grandparents worry for many years. When my parents were still alive, because they were unwilling to get married, they had always helped to mediate in front of my parents. That's why our relationship didn't become a mess. All this time, they have been indulging my willfulness. If I continue to make them worry like this, it is indeed a little too much. In their eyes, no matter how old I am probably uncertain and unreliable. They thought that it was true in the early years, but later they probably got used to it. They were used to wandering outside and wandering. Maybe it is time for them to change this impression. Luo Peisong was a little disappointed. Granduncle, you don't have to worry about it. Because you and grandfather are born of the same mother, you are their close relatives, so they won't mind these small things. That is indeed the case. However, most of the time the one who really can't let go is yourself, not others. It's because of guilt, self-blame, or even resentment. Indeed, Jingwan could completely understand and appreciate this feeling because she felt the same way. But now, Jingwan glanced at the man beside her and seemed to be accepting his kindness more and more calmly. Sometimes she even felt that it was natural. This was also what he wanted. He wanted her to trust him without reservation and rely on him. He was committed to making her learn how to be extravagant and enjoy life. He tried to use the best things in the world to bribe her so that she could not leave him. Even though he didn't say it out loud, Jingwan could feel it from his actions. Even though he knew it didn't mean much, it was more likely that he simply wanted to give her the best, that's all. If he wanted to keep her forever, it was very simple. He just needed to be the only one in his body and mind, the only one that belonged to her. When they left, Luo Peisong didn't hesitate to ask Lord Shi to stay behind. After all, when Luo Peisong spoke, it was definitely a surprise. Lord Shi had a lot of shortcomings, so he knew a lot of things. However, under normal circumstances, he couldn't talk at all. After all, ordinary people didn't think that the things he knew were useful at all, but those who knew liked to quote from classics and classics. At one point, Lord Shi couldn't understand what Luo Peisong was saying, so he became a useless person. However, at Luo Peisong's level, there was no need for him to show off his knowledge. It was as if he had returned to his natural state. It would be strange if he didn't understand the most straightforward words. Li Hongyuan didn't have any objections to keeping Lord Shi. After all, he already knew about the situation in Taming Mansion and its surroundings. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, Lord Shi was reduced to a useless person. Since that was the case, one more person wouldn't make a difference. Thus, he was mercilessly abandoned just like that. Lord Shi was very happy to be able to learn from a famous scholar for a period of time. It was something that he didn't even dare to think about. Due to some considerations, neither Li Hongyuan nor Jingwan asked anyone to serve them. Therefore, when they left Luo Peisong's small courtyard, only Granny Gong and Mu were waiting at the door. However, there were probably many people who knew that they were here, so there were quite a number of people who seemed to be wandering around intentionally or unintentionally. These people had no effect on Jingwan and the others. They were ready to leave Taming Academy directly. Li Hongyuan knew very well what his father was thinking. Although Yu Zhongqing wouldn't tell on them, Li Hongyuan was really not interested in paying attention to this group of obviously immature but ambitious students. Along the way, there were some people who wanted to approach them. However, there were always some men and women in strange clothes, who came out of nowhere and isolated them. Then, they clustered around the people who were led by the two of them. Only then did they know that they were the ones who brought them out. With such an obvious gesture of rejection, naturally, there wouldn't be any tactless people who continued to approach them. Meeting Luo Peisong was unexpected. Therefore, with this delay, it was getting late and they could go back directly. In the next few days, Jingwan and the others finished exploring all the places in the city and began to explore outside the city. Due to Li Hongyuan's connivance, Jingwan almost abandoned the carriage. Most likely, she rode on a horse, either alone or with two people. Her horsemanship improved by leaps and bounds. From this mountain top to that valley, from this temple to that dam, it was the time when 100 flowers were blooming and competing with each other for beauty. Regardless of whether it was natural beauty or man-made carvings, they were all so beautiful that nothing could be taken in all at once. Furthermore, there were also the steep peaks, the ever-changing sea of clouds, and the magnificent sunrise and sunset. Sometimes when she heard that there was something delicious in a remote place, she would go straight there. Even if the final result was not satisfactory, Jingwan still smiled happily. Li Hongyuan was originally just playing with her. Seeing Jingwan's smile was enough for him to be happy and calm in the depths of his heart. However, Jingwan would not let him go. Not to mention that the King of Hell knew how to play. In fact, he played very elegantly. The craziest and wildest thing was probably when he rode on a horse. In the end, he still could keep his clothes and hair tidy. The first time he lost his image was probably when he was pulled by Jingwan to run wildly in the imperial plantation. With that experience, Li Hongyuan did not have a sense of rejection. After really experiencing that kind of unrestrained recklessness, people who were raised under the strictest dogma would also be addicted to it. One time Jingwan was on a whim. Originally, she was going to go back to the city. However, she dilly-dallied and refused to go back. She was determined to have a camping trip. It should be known that now her will was the priority, and no one would say anything. The things were not fully prepared. According to Nanny Gong's idea, she asked people to go back to the city to get them. However, Jingwan firmly refused. The reason why she did this was not because she did not know that the people around her had to prepare a lot of things before going out. There was no surprise or accident in it. It was not that Jingwan was a thrill-seeker and adventurous person in her bones. It was purely because the people around her were too rigid. However, after this time, Jingwan did not want to play this kind of accident again. Because after this time, whenever she went out of the city, the people around her would prepare more and more things. Every time she went out of the city, she would have a camping trip and a high-class accommodation. Thinking of those things, Jingwan could not help but sigh. She asked for help from someone, but that person just watched the show and said that the person who served her did a good job. He would reward her on the spot and give her a pay raise later. No one listened to her advice. In the end, Jingwan could only helplessly say that she would not be willful in the future. Nanny Gong said that she did not think it through before and would not make the same mistake in the future. If Nanny Gong was expressing dissatisfaction with her, she would still say it. However, Jingwan knew that Nanny Gong really thought so. It was nothing more than moving a stone to drop on one's own foot. Other than these small, unsatisfactory things, everything else was very enjoyable. It was really enjoyable. This was because, intentionally or unintentionally, Li Hongyuan had unlocked many new postures. The clear spring in the mountain stream, the bushes in the wilderness, the steeds on the road. There were too many places where they had left their scents. The living King Yama wiped his mouth in satisfaction. It should be known that for people like them, other than those who had special fetishes, most of them restrained themselves and observed etiquette in bed. In his previous life before the accident, other than being smarter than most people, he was also a qualified noble son. Later on, his temperament changed greatly. In addition, his health was not good to begin with, and he had someone in his heart, so he did not have such thoughts. Needless to say, in this life, he kept his chastity for the person he loved the most. He did not think that he could play like this. Although the living king of hell was crazy, and the pleasure of intimacy was full of skills, he could still be called conservative and pure in some aspects. However, after this, Jingwan lit a row of candles for herself. As the time that Li Hongyuan and the others stayed in Kai Ming Fu increased, seeing that the Dragon Boat Festival was approaching, the officials of Kai Ming Fu became more and more anxious. Although it seemed that Jin Qin Wang did not do anything, there was always a sense of urgency, like a storm was coming. The 28 Fu in Jiangnan's 4 counties were strangely calm, completely different from the expected turmoil. Moreover, unknowingly, the spearhead was pointed at Kai Ming Fu. If they did not do anything wrong, naturally they would not be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. But in reality, there were not many officials of Kai Ming Fu who did not have a guilty conscience. Jingwan, who was almost done playing, returned to the house, and those Furins finally found the opportunity and excuse to visit, inviting Jin Qin Wang and his wife to attend the lunch banquet. Jingwan accepted the invitation and said that she would definitely be there. Afterwards, these Furins then mentioned their own evil spawn, but they did not want to take them back, only asking if they could see them. Although they tried their best to show that they did not care and were reserved, Jingwan still saw the anxiety and worry in their eyes, and there was also a bit of pleading. Jingwan then remembered, in this other courtyard, there was still a group of playboy young masters who lived like tyrants. They played to their heart's content, and accidentally fell into the sea of oblivion. That, what was it, she sent people to re-educate them? Could it be that it had been continuing? Her face did not change, but her heart was a bit guilty. Turning back. Mama, how are the young masters? Replying to Wang Fei, the young masters are eating well and sleeping well, everything is fine. Jingwan nodded. I will tell Wang Ye to let the young masters go back, what do you think? It just so happens that Wang Ye mentioned this morning. Wang Fei can make the decision regarding the young masters. Gong Mama responded. Like this. Then that's fine. Go invite the young masters out, and return with the Furins. The master and servant pair sang the same tune, and under the situation where there was no prior communication, they tacitly handled this matter simply. Things went so smoothly that it naturally made the Furins happy, but the worry in their hearts did not lessen much. Not to mention other things, their own children had always been spoiled since childhood, stretching out their hands for clothes and opening their mouths for food. Who knew how these days passed? Would they have lost so much weight by now? When they thought of that appearance, they could not stop the heartache, but they could not show the slightest bit of it on their faces. At the same time, they had to thank Jin Qin Wang and Jin Qin Wang Fei for their children's care these days. Jingwan listened to their insincere words, and her face could not help but stiffen. Jingwan lowered her head to drink tea, as if she did not see anything. Originally, they thought that they would have to wait for some time to tidy up their children, but they did not expect that it would be so fast. Then, when they saw this group of familiar yet unfamiliar children, the Furins were stunned. It must be said that as long as they had not seen their grandchildren for more than a few days, they would habitually say, "My son is dead." But at this moment, no one could say this sentence against their heart. The expected thin and haggard did not appear. In fact, it was the opposite. Their complexions were rosy, and almost everyone had put on weight. Their spirits were also good, and their actions were moderate, unlike when they were at home, where they drank too much, spoke and behaved without any rules, and were sloppy. Every time they saw them it gave them a headache. They could not help but doubt, were these really their own children? Until they paid their respects to the Furins, and then each went to find their mother. Those who were not blood-related looked indifferent, but those who were blood-related, some of the emotions in their eyes could not be hidden. They were people who could not be more familiar. How could they not be their own children? It was just that the occasion was not right, and some words were not good to say. They resisted and bid farewell to Jingwen. It was the governor's wife who stayed until the end, because she was the only one who did not see her son. Wang Fei nyong this. Jingwen was also puzzled. Mama, what's the matter? Replying to Wang Fei regarding the governor's son, the situation is a bit special. I'm afraid we have to ask the governor's wife to go back first. Later, we will send him to the governor's residence. How could this be? She subconsciously thought of the worst situation. Speaking of which, even if her son was not good, he was still the flesh that fell from her son's body. Towards an outsider, even if she had good feelings, could this good feelings surpass her own son? The governor's wife suppressed her anger. That evil creature can receive Wang Ye's and Wang Fei's care. That is his good fortune. How could he continue to trouble Wang Ye and Wang Fei? Even if the situation is a bit special, this subject's wife can wait. Since that's the case, Mama, just invite them over. They all came in together, so it's not good to treat them differently. Just send them out together. Mama Gong hesitated for a moment. Yes, Wang Fei. The person was quickly carried over, and it was carried over by 4 people. The governor's wife could not believe her eyes. Was this really her son and not a fat pig? Until the other party's familiar voice sounded, the governor's wife's legs went soft and she almost fainted. When Jingwan saw this for the first time, she choked and coughed. What, wasn't this method a bit too cruel? But, in such a short period of time, how did she manage to feed him to this extent? This wasn't increasing his weight, but directly increasing his weight. Jingwan was too embarrassed to speak to the governor's wife. The governor's wife looked at Jingwan and gritted her teeth. If her son was the same as the others, she might really be grateful to Jingwan. But he was so fat, She would not believe that there was nothing fishy about it even if she was beaten to death. The anger in her eyes was almost tangible. This evil creature is really indebted to the prince and Wang Fei for taking care of him. Jingwan did not speak, but Mama Gong was not so polite. Madam is right. After all, your son is personally taken care of by the prince, so he is naturally different from others. Speaking of which, your son's appetite is really good. Although the governor's mansion is not rich, it should not be a problem to raise a son. In the future, don't be too harsh on him. The governor's wife was so angry that her chest heaved up and down quickly. I'll take my leave first. She left in a huff, but the servant girl could not move the pig. In the end, the guards helped to carry the pig to the carriage. After sending them off, Jingwan asked about the governor's son. In the end, the living king of hell had people drugged him, and he would be hungry whenever he ate. Jingwan selectively put this matter aside. Only then did she realize that the festival was coming, and she had completely forgotten about it. Naturally, she did not prepare to send the festival gifts to the capital. That was why she hurried to find Mama Gong and the others. As the saying goes, one can't be late. Now she regretted deeply in her heart. Your Highness, don't worry. The festival gifts in the capital have been sent back. Everyone should have a share. No one is left behind. Jingwan exhaled. She was sincerely grateful to have such a considerate and thoughtful person. Thank you, Mama Gong. Your Highness, you are too polite. You did not inform me and acted on your own accord. I should ask for your forgiveness. How can I accept your thanks? Mama Gong was still serious and proper. Mama Gong, you are too boring. You have been my master for 3 or 4 years. You have helped me a lot and taught me a lot. Nominally, you are my master and servant, but in your heart, you treat me as your elder. Mama Gong has always been strict with yourself and has never overstepped your boundaries. In your heart, do you really treat me as your master? Mama Gong was silent for a moment and then she gave a rare smile. Since your Highness said so, there is no need to thank me. That's right. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653511. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikugo mobile reading website. Bicken. Chapter 286. Jingwan turned back to talk to Li Hongyuan about the governor's son. Li Hongyuan just glanced at her. His son has been fattened up, not skinny like firewood. He should be grateful to this prince. His son has eaten so much of this prince's food, and this prince hasn't asked him for money yet. How dare he have an opinion? Eunuch Mu, who was guarding outside, immediately responded at the door. Master, what are your orders? Go to the governor's mansion and tell the governor that his son can eat too much. One person can eat a group of people. This prince only said to raise a person that day, not a pig. Let him quickly calculate the excess into money and send it over. He should be more self-aware. Every time, this prince has to tell him what to do personally. Does he, as the governor, rely on others to tell him about his government affairs? Li Hongyuan's words were vicious and heart-wrenching. Those who had a slightly weaker tolerance would vomit blood in anger. Yes, Eunuch Mu responded. He would definitely convey his master's words word for word. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan as if she wanted to say something. Li Hongyuan looked back at her with a faint smile. Wan, do you want to plead for leniency again? Yuan, you think too much. Why would I plead for leniency for an unrelated person? That's right. Those were all outsiders. She should follow the husband and wife. Li Hongyuan played with Jingwan's fingers one by one, as if he was studying the most perfect art. Then he put them to his lips and kissed them. A little numb, and a small electric current seemed to spread from her fingertips to her whole body. Jingwan couldn't help but shrink back. Naturally, she didn't succeed. When she met Li Hongyuan's slightly condemning gaze, it was as if she had done something heinous. Jingwon really felt a little guilty at the first moment. She wanted to curse. What's so great about having a high face? Can you use a handsome man's trick as you please? She wouldn't fall for this trick. Doesn't A Yuan have anything to say about the banquet? What's there to say? The worst that can happen is that there will be no good banquet. Even if they use the enlightened official army, I can still escape. Besides, do you think that they have the guts to use the official army? Tong Prefecture had a total of 120,000 soldiers. Because Taming Prefecture was also a prefecture, it had 20,000 more soldiers than other prefectures. The governor of a county was in charge of the army of a county. However, the people in each prefecture were not to be trifled with. It should be known that in order to divide the power, the subordinates were not united in the original arrangement. In this county, it was already good enough that there were 50,000 people who were completely under his command. Among these 50,000 people, there were at most 10,000 from the Taming Prefecture. Moreover, once they made a move, they would definitely be stopped by others. Mobilizing the prefecture army to deal with a prince was already a blatant rebellion. How many people would have the guts to search the whole family without any reason? Even if it's a secret operation, if there are less than 1,000 people, they can't even touch a strand of my hair. If there are more than this number, can it still be considered a secret operation? Li Hongyuan raised his hand and the back of his finger brushed across Jingwon's cheek. As long as I'm still alive, I will definitely not let you suffer the slightest bit of harm. You're really unlucky. If there's any chance, I will send you one step ahead. Don't worry, it won't be very painful. I have always been decisive. When Li Hongyuan said this, there was a gentle smile on his face. However, these words were not a joke. If he said it, he would definitely do it. There was a trace of ruthlessness in his words. Up to heaven, down to hell. As long as you don't let me down, I will not abandon you. Jingwon smiled and leaned into his embrace. One really doesn't want to suffer losses. There must be a prerequisite for not abandoning me. Li Hongyuan stroked her back gently. Course. Can't I? Yes, there's nothing you can't do. Since he had already said this, Jingwon naturally did not continue to ask. Moreover, in Jingwon's opinion, the possibility of using the official army was infinitely close to zero. On the day of the Dragon Boat Festival, Li Hongyuan did not wear the imperial attire of a prince, and Jingwon did not wear the formal attire of a prince's consort. However, they both came out in splendid attire. They were not low-key luxurious, but high-profile and gorgeous. Even from afar, one could feel their extraordinary nobility. More importantly, they were able to firmly suppress the splendid attire on their bodies. To them, the attire was only to add color to their appearance. There was absolutely no awkwardness of wearing the imperial robe or looking like a crown prince. The first thing to notice would always be the person, and then the things on their bodies. Moreover, Jingwon even put on makeup today to highlight her own advantages and lessen some of the imperfections. She was still the same person, but she was exceptionally stunning. She had the aura of a beauty that overshadowed all the other beauties. In fact, there were indeed beauty and ugliness. However, in Jingwon's opinion, it was really difficult to choose the first beauty. After all, everyone's aesthetic was not the same. It was hard to imagine that Li Hongyuan's beauty could be recognized as the first beauty in the capital without seeing him in person. It could be imagined that he was extremely handsome. As for his mother, it was said that she was the first beauty in Jiangnan. How beautiful was she? She was the kind who did not wear any makeup. To be able to give birth to a son like Li Hongyuan, his appearance completely overshadowed Lu Qingdi's. It could be seen that his genes were powerful. However, Lu Qingdi was also handsome and dignified. If he was too ugly, with a son like Li Hongyuan, everyone would think that he was cuckolded. Their imposing manner was not only reflected in themselves, but also in a line of guards who wore the same uniform and carried swords at their waists. Jingwan's 6 maids were also dressed in the same uniform. They were beautiful but smart and capable. The 2 nannies were also upright and had spirited eyes. However, when they got closer, they found that there were actually female guards among the guards. Jingwan was already a married woman and was even a Qin Wang Fei. Naturally, there would not be any men who would have designs on her. However, Li Hongyuan was different. He had a wife and could still have designs on her. He who suppressed all the men. It was really difficult for those unmarried women not to have designs on him, even if they were repeatedly warned by their families. Not to mention other things, just look at Qin Wang Fei's outfit. The material of the clothes was something that the majority of them had never seen before. It was extremely gorgeous and beautiful. And that set of top-quality ruby head ornaments, even if it was just one piece, it was more than the total value of their bodies added together. Moreover, it was so exquisite that it made people unable to take their eyes off it. It was obviously the work of a top master. Didn't they see that those maids' clothes were better than them, the Guan girls? These things, how many women in the world did not love them? Perhaps things that were out of reach for a lifetime. As long as they married Qin Wang, everything would be at their fingertips. Would it really be like this? He really too naive. Li Hongyuan would only pile it on Jingwan, so much that there was no place to put it. So much that it became moldy, and he would definitely be stingy with others. And these officials, did they not think of marrying their daughters to Qin Wang? They had thought of it, and it was not just 1 or 2. Even though they basically knew that Li Hongyuan did not have any power, but he was deeply favored by the emperor, and his wealth was monstrous. Just these 2 points alone were enough. Moreover, according to his tyranny that could not be provoked as his in-laws, who would dare to make a move? However, it was said that Governor Su's Shu daughter was almost thrown off the Immortals viewing platform by Qin Wang Fei. With such a ruthless and jealous person, and Qin Wang still being partial to helping her, could their own daughter enter the door? Even if she entered the door, how long could she live? In a marriage alliance, the role of the dead was far less than that of the living, especially when it was not the main wife. Therefore, some things still needed to be considered. Moreover, now was the time when a sharp blade was hanging over one's head. If anyone made the first move, it would mean that they were surrendering, which meant that they might betray others in order to protect themselves. How could these people allow it? It could be said that if there were any unusual movements, they would be annihilated by others. Of course, this did not include Governor Su. After all, as the boss of the county government of the same province, no one could get rid of it cleanly. Other than this, the most eye-catching person was probably the commander of the Imperial Guards, Yu Zhongqing. Primary 3rd rank, a popular person in front of the emperor. The most important thing was that he did not have a wife or children. He was simply a big golden turtle son-in-law. During this period of time, many people wanted to make friends with him. However, Yu Zhongqing was loyal to his duty. As the personal bodyguard of Emperor Ming, they had never seen him leave the residence alone. After leaving the residence, he was always inseparable from Qin Wang Fei. Even if they did not find a chance to make friends with him at this time. He was wearing an official's uniform and had a saber at his waist. He was very awe-inspiring. However, with his stern face and cold gaze, it seemed that he was even more unapproachable than Qin Wang Fei. This was the custom of the Dragon Boat Festival. There was not much difference between Kai Ming Fu and the capital. It was just that the dragon boat race was held across the canal. In comparison, this grand event far surpassed the capital. Although it happened every year, it still made people very excited. This year, the seating arrangements were slightly different. Although there were also male and female seating arrangements, Qin Wang Fei and Qin Wang Fei were in the middle. The 2-person seating arrangement was followed by their people. Jingwan was on the left, and on the left were the other womenfolk. Li Hongyuan was on the right, and on the right were the many officials of Kai Ming Fu. Li Hongyuan was not in the mood to chat with the officials. Thus there were no formal words. The dragon boat race could start. Li Hongyuan did not need to think about the prizes. Jingwen was not stingy. Perhaps she had already prepared beforehand. A set of southern pearl head ornaments, a dagger that could cut iron like mud, a recommendation letter in her name to the Minister of Personnel Affairs, and an even more extravagant banknote of 500,000 taels. After taking out these things, the others could not help but suffocate. If she lost, it would be fine. If she won, who could afford to compensate? Even if they did not know the phrase, hating the rich. At this time, many people had this kind of mentality. However, Jingwan expressed that these were not used to place bets. They were a reward for the final winner. Very good, this can be done. However, Jin Qin Wang Fei, you are such a wastrel. Does Jin Qin Wang really have no objection? Then, as the men beating the drums on the dragon boats, they received a death order from their own family and their married sisters that they must win. Each family's young master personally participated. This was a tradition of Kai Ming Fu. Although there was a competitive spirit in the past, they always had to give some face to a few families. Therefore, the final winner was always one of these families. Accompanying the crown prince to study had become a habit, so there was no competitive spirit. This year, they suddenly received such an order. While there was great pressure, they also became excited. Before it started, the flames of war had already been ignited. This is a bit of the atmosphere that should be there, Jingwan said with a smile. Inexplicably, it gave people a feeling of wanting to spend a lot of money to have fun. However, no matter what other people thought, Jin Qinwang had no objection. There was a feeling of I spoiled it, so what? That made people want to beat him up even more. The people who deserved to be beaten were even more deserving of being beaten, and the people who wanted to be beaten were even more afraid to be beaten. The former became more and more leisurely, while the latter could only grit his teeth and hold back a mouthful of old blood in his heart. The dragon boat race started very quickly. Perhaps it was because this year's energy was particularly abundant. Everyone used all their strength to drink milk. It could be said that it was a fierce battle between dragons and tigers. You overtake me and I catch up. It was not like the previous years, where the final result was basically decided not long after it started. Li Hongyuan and Jing Wan occasionally got together and whispered a few words. They talked and laughed, giving people a feeling of intimacy that outsiders could not get involved in, making people envious and jealous. Jin Qinwang was such a high and aloof person. How could he hold such a poisonous woman in the palm of his hand? As the saying goes, one may know a person for a long time without understanding their heart. It was really appropriate to use this to describe Jin Qinwang Fei. It was probably because he had used too much energy in the early stages that he was unable to continue in the later stages. The final result was unexpected. However, the humans in the competition were panting. Before they could cheer, there was a commotion in the stands. It was an extremely excited girl. Although she attracted a lot of attention and was somewhat embarrassed and helpless, it was still difficult to hide her excitement. Jingwan turned her head to take a look and confirmed with others that it was indeed her family, Kai Ming Fu's dragon boat, that won the race. She said on the spot that she was in a good mood today and added another 300,000 taels to the reward. The mama behind her casually took out another 300,000 taels, and under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she had people send the things over. That girl disregarded her bearing and bypassed her elders, wanting to take the things over. Her goal was certainly not the money, but the people who were faster than her. Little sister, in any case, it was your elder brother who worked hard to win it. You should let him take a look first. If not, there is still Nyang. You are an unmarried girl, at least be more reserved. That girl's face was about to drip blood. She was annoyed and resentful. Enough, don't make a fool of yourself. A woman next to her took the things and placed them by her side. No one should think about moving them. It was not that no one saw that the young woman used force when her mother-in-law took the things over. Her eyes were filled with undisguised reluctance. That young girl's eyes were red and she was about to cry. The others all pursed their lips. On the surface, they were mocking them for being petty, but in their hearts, how many people were not envious? The governor of a Fu was originally the boss of the local area. However, when the county city and the Fu city overlapped, he had to stand aside. Therefore, the governor of Ming Fu was in a position that was neither good nor bad. It was slightly awkward. The things that were supposed to be his responsibility were often criticized by others. Sometimes, he even had to lower his head and ask for guidance. It was sullen. In the past, he was not very conspicuous, but this time, he had used a special method to show his face. The prefectural official smiled at the congratulations of others, but in his heart, he was not happy at all. This was a reward, but it was also a hot potato. If he was not careful, he would be buried. Regarding Jingwan's spending, there were many people who did not understand the meaning behind it, who did not secretly speculate the meaning behind it. After all, the figure of 800,000 taels was really subtle. It was almost half of a certain number. If there was this money, many things could be covered up. These old and new sly people in the officialdom, not many would think that it really came from Jingwan's hands. Could it be that Jin Qin Wang threw it out intentionally? But how could it be? Not to mention that Jin Qin Wang took Jin Qin Wang Fei out to play all day long. The main staff that followed him were basically sent out of Ming Fu. The only two that did not do anything. How could he know about Ming Fu? But 800,000 taels, it was really too much of a coincidence. The more they felt that it was impossible, the more they felt that there was a problem. Governor Tyrant, who was played the most miserably by Li Hongyuan, could not sit still at this moment. His heart was beating like a drum and he could not help but look at Governor Su. But the other party was still as motionless as a mountain. No one could see what he was thinking. Perhaps he felt the governor's gaze. He even looked back and smiled indifferently. Subsequently, Li Hongyuan expressed that he was in a good mood. The dragon boat race would start another round, and the winner would be rewarded with 800,000 taels. As soon as these words came out, Governor Su's hand could not help but tighten the teacup in his hand. What was more subtle was that the second round was still won by the dragon boat led by the governor's son. The governor's back was directly soaked. Sitting, his legs were trembling and the sweat on his forehead slid down. There were only 2 words left in his heart. Finished. After the dragon boat race ended, Jin Qin Wang used the humid air near the water and the weather was hot. He was worried that his Wang Fei would not be able to stand it and changed the location. Jingwan did not refute and just stood beside Li Hongyuan with a smile. How others criticized her had nothing to do with her. Fortunately, she was already prepared. It was not a big deal to change the location. It was just that it was not obvious at first. Jingwan felt more and more obvious at this moment, as if there were some things that she did not know. Jingwan called Gong Mama to ask. Gong Mama left for a while and came back to report to Jingwan in full detail. Su Wanting died yesterday. A few days ago, she went out and was frightened and fell ill. In the end, she could not bear it. On the Immortals viewing platform, the news of me throwing a girl down was spread like a nose and eyes. It is said that the girl was Su Wanting. Oh, this is quite interesting. Jingwan smiled. This killing incident, when it happened to a good person, compared to when it happened to a bad person, it would cause a lot more reactions. This matter, Wang Ye should have a clear idea in his heart. Then you don't have to worry about it. This Taming Fu was indeed not a simple place. However, presumably they would leave soon. If it was like this here, then what about the center of this incident? Jingwan was inexplicably looking forward to it. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653514. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com Biku Go mobile reading website. Bicken. Chapter 287. After that, everything went smoothly, including the banquet. Everything was peaceful. There was nothing good without a banquet. Jingwan wondered if she was overthinking things. Even when they returned to the courtyard, nothing had happened. Jingwan blinked. Had it really ended just like that? Li Hongyuan found it funny. Wan really wanted something to happen. That's not it. I just think that something will happen sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it'll be quite annoying if something happens when you're in a good mood. Don't worry. The good show will happen at night if it doesn't happen during the day. It won't continue to drag on. I've told them that if they miss today, they won't have another chance. After all, they'll be reduced to lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Li Hongyuan looked at the side courtyard meaningfully. Maybe the good show will happen one after another. Anyway, you won't be disappointed. Although she didn't know the specific plan, she could roughly guess it. However, Wan might not be able to sleep well tonight. That's not a big deal. If we can't sleep well, there will definitely be someone who can't sleep well. Whether they can sleep well or not has nothing to do with us. If they make Wan unable to sleep well, I'll be very unhappy. If you're unhappy, then let them sleep more restlessly. Not only tonight but also many nights in the future. Until they go where they should go and everything is settled, they know that a certain path is their final destination. When their hearts are at ease, they'll die, Jingwan said lightly. Jingwan wasn't happy either. Li Hongyuan basically didn't hide the situation in Taming Prefecture, and even the entire Tongzhou Prefecture from her. They were a bunch of vermin and vampires, squeezing the people's wealth and filling their own pockets. In the end, there was a huge deficit of more than 1 million taels. This was only the amount from Taming Prefecture. Adding the amount from other prefectures, Jingwan even believed that just the entire Tongzhou Prefecture alone was probably half the amount of silver written in De Li's secret memorial when he became emperor. Adding the entire Jiangnan, and then the entire Jiangnan, more than 10 million taels was nothing. Speaking of which, it took a lot of effort for Li Hongyuan to be able to grasp the situation so clearly. It wasn't just a day or two, nor was it a month or two. A few years ago, when he started to place people in various places, he had already been laying the groundwork. He walked step by step until today. When the time was almost right, he revealed it. His purpose was to ruthlessly clean up the officialdom in Jiangnan. It wasn't to say how many people would lose their positions or their lives, but to straighten things out and spit out what he had eaten. Of course, those who should be killed would be killed, and those who should be forgiven would be forgiven. Those who were left behind, it wasn't that the King of Hell suddenly became benevolent, but that the debts owed would be repaid in a lifetime. This was the true nature of the King of Hell. After entering the main courtyard, Jingwan saw an unexpected person. After the other party greeted her, she asked, "Lord Li, you're back today?" "Your Highness, I arrived an hour ago," Li Suyen said respectfully. Jingwan nodded. She didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that Li Suyen's cold and ruthless aura had become stronger. She looked at Li Hongyuan. "Then I'll go and rest for a while." Wan, I'm afraid you won't be able to rest. You should change into some simple and refreshing clothes. You have to leave Taming Mansion tonight." Jingwan glanced at Li Suyen again. In other words, this person's return was actually some kind of signal. After Jingwan left, Li Suyen reported the results of this trip to Li Hongyuan. The actual situation is far more serious than what His Majesty received from the secret memorial. For out of the 100 black-robed guards have been killed. In addition, I also found out another thing. 3 years ago, there were 50,000 people who survived the earthquake in Minshan County. In fact, there were only 20,000 people. The silver allocated by the imperial court to settle the 50,000 people was all embezzled. And those 20,000 people, Li Hongyuan's face was cold. They were secretly executed. It was not a question but a certainty. His voice was so cold that there was no trace of warmth. The coldness on Li Suyen's face was not much less than Li Hongyuan's. Because of the earthquake, the people who were buried alive did not speak. After the earthquake, there was an epidemic that killed many people. And those who were alive were mixed in with the dead and were all burned alive. It was a coincidence that I knew about this. It turned out that there was a survivor who saw with his own eyes that his family was thrown into the pile of dead people. No matter if he was a coward or endured the humiliation, in short, he did not come out. Relying on his familiarity with the terrain, he hid here and there and actually escaped the search of the officers and soldiers. Even when the officers and soldiers were searching, he casually revealed some things with a smile. Although his words were not clear, but he was a scholar and had passed the Shotsai examination. He was the pride of the village, and too many people had placed their hopes on him. In the end, from those words, the truth was most likely broken. He became a beggar and did not forget the deep-seated hatred for a moment. He thought of ways to take revenge, but he was a dead person and had no money on him. Even if he wanted to enter the capital to lodge a complaint, he could not move an inch. Hatred tortured him every day. And he was originally the kind of person who was obsessed with studying. In order to take revenge, he could put down his dignity and beg for food, but it could not change the fact that he was powerless. When he first arrived and did not know the rules, he was beaten up by other beggars. He never knew how he survived. Li Suyen was acting under Li Hongyuan's orders. The 50 black-robed guards, including him, were not secretly investigating, but walking around in a very high-profile manner. Although he did not understand Li Hongyuan's intention, he only followed orders and then received such a reward. "Where is he now?" Li Hongyuan asked. Speaking of which, this was not a small matter. Li Hongyuan did not hear anything about it in his previous life. It could be seen that it was completely concealed. But this time, once the matter was investigated, the relevant personnel, from the county magistrate, governor, to the low-ranking officers and soldiers who participated in it, could not think of getting away with it. That person's health is not good. It is not suitable for him to travel far. To avoid alerting the enemy, he was not touched, only sent people to watch him. "How many of your men came back?" Although he had sent out 50 black-robed guards early on the ship, but in reality, replying to your highness, 50 of them are the hidden ones, and the other 3 came back with me. How did the 4 people who went in die? They were schemed against. Li Suyen said coldly, but did not want to say more. But anyone could feel that his mood was quite bad. He did not want to say, and Li Hongyuan did not ask. After all, they were not his men, so it did not matter. After returning, settle their families. I will pay for it. Thank you, your highness. Whether Jin Qinwang wanted to buy people's hearts, or simply wanted to take care of the black-robed guards' families, he would accept this favor. Go and prepare, we will leave tonight. Yes. After Li Suyen left, an Yi came forward. Master, regarding Governor Su, I have investigated clearly. After spending so much time, it should not disappoint. Li Hongyuan took the letter that an Yi presented. It was quite thick. Opening it, Li Hongyuan looked carefully page by page. His speed was very fast. After reading it, he even smiled. My Qi Yuan dynasty is really a crouching tiger and hidden dragon. Talented people come out in large numbers. He handed all the letters to Yu Zhongqing. Yu Zhongqing was slightly stunned. He probably did not think that Li Hongyuan would show it to him, but he did not ask and took it. Although the first part was very surprising, it was not enough to make his face change color. But when he saw a certain page at the back, Yu Zhongqing's eyes spewed out a strong hatred and killing intent, as if he wanted to burn through the paper. His hands trembled because of this. The veins on the back of his hands jumped. The next moment, he suddenly dropped the letter in his hand, turned and left, his hand holding the hilt, without Li Hongyuan's order. An Yi came forward to stop him, but Yu Zhongqing did not hesitate to pull out the sword. An Yi was also caught off guard. If it was not for the strong sense of danger as a shadow guard, his body moved faster than his mind, and he quickly turned sideways. That sword would have fallen on his body. This was not good. The other guards immediately came forward to help, but because an E knew all the contents of the letter. He knew the reason why Yu Zhongqing was so abnormal, so he reminded his brothers not to hurt him. In the eyes of these people, the meaning of not hurting was not to hurt the tendons and bones, lose an arm or break a leg. As for the rest, no matter what the reason was, just beat them up violently. Yu Zhongqing's skills were extraordinary, but could Li Hongyuan's guards be bad? What's more, an E who held 2 positions had a lot of fast, accurate, and ruthless killing methods. At the same time, there were also a lot of methods to beat people to the bone. Therefore, Yu Zhongqing, who had his sword taken away, was tragically beaten to the ground. Li Hongyuan watched leisurely from the side until Yu Zhongqing was forced to kneel in front of him. "Are you calm?" Yu Zhongqing lowered his head and did not say a word, as if he did not feel the pain in his body. "As for the other small fries, I'll find a chance for you to deal with them yourself after this mission. It's up to you to decide whether you want to kill them or let them go. However, you should know that we can't touch old dog Sue for the time being. A slight move in one part will affect the whole situation. Now, even if we're in the dark and they're in the light, it'll be difficult for the rest of the fishes to touch their tails." Li Hongyuan was a little patient, which was rare for him. Yu Zhongqing continued to be silent for a moment. He struggled, and the 2 guards who were pressing him released him. "I was reckless, Your Highness, please forgive me. I'll let it go this time, but if there is a next time it won't be so easy. When the matter is over, I will hand him over to you to deal with." "Thank you, Your Highness. Go and deal with the injury." Li Hongyuan looked at the letter that Eunuch Mu picked up from the table. Speaking of which, it was better to come at the right time than to come at the right time. The news was the same, but now he needed to make some arrangements. Jingwan changed her clothes and came over. When she saw the letter, she curiously picked it up and read it. After reading it, she did not look too good. These people are really not to be underestimated. The Qi Yuan dynasty is like a sieve. There are loopholes everywhere. Speaking of which, most of the Qi Yuan's territory is fertile and rich in resources. Many people want to take a bite of it. However, to put it bluntly, Qi Yuan's national power, ever since the previous emperor, has been going downhill, and now, Wan, you don't have to look at me. You can say whatever you want about him. You don't have to worry about me. In fact, I know much more than you. He is definitely worse than you think and incompetent." Li Hongyuan really wasn't belittling his old man. Just like in his previous life, if his old man was really more powerful, and his methods were more unyielding, it wouldn't be to the extent that Qi Yuan almost lost his life because of his sons fighting for the throne. It was said that although Lu Qingdi was not very ambitious and was not good at attacking, he was good at defending. Was that really the case? Li Hongyuan did not think so. If Lu Qingdi took over the powerful Qi Yuan, he might be able to withstand it. However, as Wan said, Lu Qingdi took over the declining Qi Yuan. Qi Yuan was declining, but other countries were facing it head-on. In this way, it seemed that Lu Qingdi was defending what he had, but in fact, if he did not advance, it was equivalent to retreating. If he could sit on the throne for another 10 years, he would definitely become the emperor of a fallen country. However, with Li Hongyuan around, even if Lu Qingdi had a long life, he would not be able to sit on the throne for that long. It was impossible for him to be a puppet emperor. Of course, the reason why Li Hongyuan cared so much about Qi Yuan was because of Jingwan. If Jingwan was not around, and he lived the same life as in his previous life, he would most likely sit on the sidelines and watch the show while eating melon seeds. In any case, even if the capital was attacked, he could escape unscathed. The world was big and he could do whatever he wanted. If he was bored one day, he would become a traitor of the previous dynasty, and cause trouble for the countries that overthrew the Qi Yuan or divided the Qi Yuan. However, the trouble caused by the King of Hell was not something that ordinary people could bear. However, why do I feel that there is a small problem with these things? Jingwan frowned slightly. "Oh, what do you mean?" Li Hongyuan tilted his head slightly to look at Jingwan and asked curiously. Jingwan thought for a moment and organized her thoughts. "I don't know if it's because I have a different understanding of it, but I feel that some things are not very coherent. It's as if there is a missing link. Even though the content does not look out of place when put together, it still feels a little forced. Jingwon then pointed out the part that was puzzling her. 1 is very sharp. However, the first and third links may not be the only links that can be linked to the second link. The first link is indispensable. The later links that can be linked to the second link may be the fourth link, the fifth link, or even the seventh or eighth link. What a yuan means is that there may be more than one link missing in the middle, but there may be several links missing. 1 is smart. The conversation between the two made An Yi's back break out in a cold sweat. Because it took a long time and involved thousands of li, and not just one place. He had repeatedly requested that no suspicious clues should be missed. He had also considered the gathered information himself, and only presented it when he felt that there was no problem. In the end, even Wang Fei saw the problem with one glance, let alone Master. Master didn't point it out at the first moment and didn't even show the slightest difference. Just thinking about it made him tremble a little. Moreover, the efficiency this time was very low, and such a mistake appeared. It was simply unforgivable. An Yi immediately knelt down and asked for forgiveness. Jingwon was startled, then immediately smiled and said, "Since there is a mistake, do your best to remedy it. Give me some personal opinions and reorganize it from the beginning to the end. Don't be affected by the original information. Otherwise, it's easy to have a preconceived idea. It's very likely that you will be misled or overlook something." An Yi secretly glanced at Li Hongyuan. Seeing that he didn't have any objections and there was no change in his expression, he gathered his courage and said, "Many thanks for Wang Fei's guidance. This subordinate will let people investigate again." Jingwon nodded. "You should have your own set of rules when doing things. Rewards and punishments are clear. You should understand what should be done now." "Yes, this subordinate understands." "Then you can go." An Yi retreated. Jingwon turned back and met Li Hongyuan's smiling face. Instead, she righteously raised her chin slightly. What I did or said was wrong?" "Yes, there's nothing wrong." Li Hongyuan pulled Jingwon over and let her sit on his lap. He pinched her chin. Wan is also very good at playing with advancing in order to retreat." What I don't understand." Jingwon snorted. "You don't understand. It doesn't matter. This husband will break it down bit by bit and explain it to you. You will definitely understand. You let An Yi receive the punishment by himself. Aren't you worried that this prince's punishment will be too heavy? Originally, you directly pleaded for leniency, but now you've learned to beat around the bush. Tell me, are you becoming more soft-hearted or what?" "What?" Wang Fei, it's time to go. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6653518. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile version reading website. Bicken. Chapter 288. Jingwon was quite happy to be interrupted by Granny Gong. She looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Seeing that his face was a little dark, she held his face and kissed him on the lips. "Ah, Yuan, you're not going to change. This outfit of yours isn't much better than the one I was wearing before." He stretched out his hand and tugged at his broad shoulders. Wan, how long do you think it will take for me to change? Do you think everyone is like you, dilly-dallying for half a day? Li Hongyuan pinched the tip of her nose naughtily. He was a little rough. Jingwon slapped the back of his hand. "What do you mean everyone is like me? There are many people slower than me." Although she had put on makeup today, she did not have to put it on again after washing it off. Many women put in a lot of effort to ensure that they would always have the most perfect image in front of their husbands. I don't know how others are like, but I know how Wan is like. Li Hongyuan teased. Seeing that Jingwan was grinding her teeth as if she was going to bite him, he helped her up. Let's go. It's a little earlier than expected, but it's good. Maybe we can have a good sleep later in the night. He took her hand and walked out. Outside the door, there were not only people waiting to serve her, but Mu An was also holding clothes. Then, a certain someone put on a good show in front of her. The clothes that usually looked complicated and difficult to put on and take off were simply like magic in his hands. Moreover, his movements were also smooth and did not appear to be flustered at all. Did he even take half a minute to change into his capable and experienced clothes? You're a prince who has been served since he was a child. Is it really good for him to be so good at doing things? Jingwan mourned for her ability to take care of herself at a younger age. To be honest, she was almost half disabled in this aspect. Jingwan didn't know how she managed to avoid all the eyes around her, but she didn't cause any commotion along the way. Because there was no light, the moonlight on the 5th day of the lunar month. It was dark all the way. However, Li Hongyuan held Jingwan in his arms, so she didn't have to use her eyes. They walked very smoothly and didn't stumble. Whether it was the people leading the way in front or the people following behind, they were all very quiet. Jingwan thought that there might be a carriage at the door, but there wasn't. After walking for a while, she entered another door. There were a few dim lanterns lit here. This is the house next door. Is this the place we're going to? It was different from what he had expected. Li Hongyuan chuckled. What else did Wan think? Leaving the city now. There's a curfew and the city gates are closed. Are you going to climb the walls to get out? Jingwan's face couldn't help but darken. She had been misled by the idea of leaving the city in the middle of the night and made a common mistake. Then may I ask your highness, how are we going to get out of the city? She gritted her teeth. Didn't they say that the city gates are closed? Of course we have to wait until someone opens the gates, Li Hongyuan said matter-of-factly. His eyes seemed to say, why did Wan become so stupid? Jingwan's anger was stuck in her throat. She couldn't spit it out or swallow it. Li Hongyuan's character was really infuriating sometimes. He only teased Jingwan occasionally. It was a kind of fun. If he could make her angry, she could imagine the grief and indignation of other people, especially when they were deliberately targeted by him. He knew what she was asking, but he deliberately played along. Jingwan couldn't be bothered to pay attention to him. His wife was angry, so he had to quickly coax her. It's my fault. Wan, don't be angry. The following matters have already been arranged. Originally, we might have to find a way to open the city gates ourselves. Now, there will naturally be someone to open the gates for us. We just have to wait. Jingwan expressed that she wasn't a kitten or a puppy. She would be fine after being teased and coaxed. Next, it was time for Arjin Qinwang to coax his wife. It made the people around them want to retreat and completely disappear. Their teeth were about to ache. Your Highness, I know that you two love each other, but can you restrain yourself a little? Even if it's your own people, please don't hurt them like this. Mu Gonggong expressed that he wanted to find a servant girl to pair up with. His eyes glanced at Jingwan's several servant girls. He quickly turned his gaze away and dispelled the idea. Not to mention the head servant girls by Wang Fei's side. Even if it was those little servant girls in Wangfu, if he dared to casually reach out, Wang Fei would chop him up. It wasn't that no one was willing to follow him, but that kind of person definitely had a purpose. If it wasn't because of his status, it was because they wanted to inquire about his master's matters through him. So, after thinking about it, he decided to forget about it. Mu Gonggong was very self-aware. He was very clear that because he knew too many things about Master, it was best for him not to have too much involvement with irrelevant people in this life. If he was well behaved, he might be able to live a life of glory, splendor, and wealth. If he had any thoughts, he never thought that Master would be soft-hearted. Your Highness, it's starting over there. What's starting? Jingwan was confused. However, it should be something that had been arranged or expected to happen. Li Hongyuan held Jingwan's hand. Wan, come with me. Originally, she wasn't very angry. At this time, Jingwan naturally followed Li Hongyuan. There was a 3-story attic in this residence. Standing on the 3rd floor, one could see the courtyard that belonged to the governor. At this moment, basically nothing could be seen. However, Jingwan inexplicably felt a sense of tension. Li Hongyuan stroked Jingwan's back as if to comfort her, but he remained silent. Because there was no light, Jingwan couldn't see his expression, but she felt that he was expressionless at this time. He was indifferent and ruthless, as if he was a god standing in the 9th heaven. He was not compassionate but absolutely superior. Those who offended him should be prepared to bear his anger. But soon Jingwan knew what was going on. Because there were several flames inside and outside the courtyard at the same time, and the fire was quite fierce. Could be seen that there was something added. Jingwan's pupils shrank fiercely. Weren't these people too bold? How dare they set fire to the courtyard? Were they determined to kill all of them? However, there was a question. They set fire so blatantly. Did they really think that there were dead people in the courtyard? There was no movement before, so they should have thought that there was no one left. Why would they set fire to the courtyard? No, there's another situation. That is, they knew that the people in the courtyard were dead asleep. But the people in the back of the courtyard were people we brought from the Wangfu. Did something happen to them or were they controlled by someone? Wan, do you think it's the former or the latter? Li Hongyuan asked as if nothing had happened. It's not what I think it is. However, Jingwan already had an answer in her heart. Because Jingwan believed that there was absolutely no problem with the guards in the courtyard. With them there was no reason for outsiders to take advantage of and enter the courtyard to kidnap and drug the chefs. But as far as she knew, the chefs that were brought out this time had been in the Jin Wangfu for at least 3 years and had always been well. Could be seen how deep they were hidden. Or perhaps they were hidden chess pieces. They didn't do anything on normal days, only leaving them for crucial moments. But they had all left. The number of people was not small. Was there really no one who suspected? Also, the people who didn't leave with them, were they going to be buried in the sea of fire? Jingwan couldn't help but clench her fists. Her expression was very ugly. Li Hongyuan seemed to know what she was thinking. There are our substitutes in the courtyard. These people are not ordinary people. Because they had already taken precautions, this is just a show to beat them at their own game. As for the others, knowing that you are soft-hearted and can't bear to see innocent people die, we have already let them return to their own residences. You will know when you see. Right now they are far from being affected. As for the future, rest assured there will be people coming back to be good people. Unless they are too unlucky, no one will die. Jingwan breathed a sigh of relief. Her tense body gradually relaxed. She hugged Li Hongyuan from the side. Ah Yuan, thank you. Jingwan was very clear that because of her, this man spent more energy and did a lot of things that he wouldn't do originally. Jingwan was very happy. Not only because he did this for her but also because, no matter what the reason was, at least he was no longer so cold and ruthless. She didn't want him to create too many obstacles. However, you are the most important. When other people or things don't conflict with you, it's fine to do it in passing. If it hinders you or even threatens you, you don't have to ask. If unrelated people get involved because of us, I may feel uncomfortable. But if something happens to you, I may be in so much pain that I wish I was dead. Towards Jingwan's more and more straightforward words of love, Li Hongyuan naturally enjoyed it. Wan, don't worry. I know what's important. At this moment, there was an unforeseen event in the courtyard. The people who were supposed to be dead asleep seemed to have woken up. In an instant, the whole courtyard was in an uproar. Not only were there people shouting to put out the fire, there were also people shouting to kill. The flames soared into the sky and set off the chaotic figures. Accompanied by, Your Highness, Princess Consort is still in the room, hurry. although it wasn't particularly clear, but inexplicably, Jingwon heard similar words very clearly. Her heart trembled. Then Jingwon seemed to hear Yu Zhongqing's voice. "Ah Yuan Lord Yu. Not everyone can be a substitute. Otherwise it's easy to reveal flaws. Moreover, he's not happy in his heart and needs to vent." After seeing everything about Governor Su, Jingwon naturally knew the reason why Yu Zhongqing was unhappy. Therefore she kept silent. These people are the official army of the Taming mansion. Someone really dared to make such a bold move. Most likely. However, the number of people is estimated to be at most 100. After this incident, regardless of whether they live or die, these people's identities are probably bandits. They are more likely to be the remnants of the previous dynasty. They hate the imperial court. With such a flamboyant prince from the Taming mansion, the other party sneaked into the city early and found an opportunity to launch a night attack. This title may be far-fetched, but since things have come to this point, regardless of whether they participate or not, they will definitely work together in order to protect themselves. Then, they will jointly ask for forgiveness from the emperor. The emperor may be angry, but it is impossible for him to behead all of them, especially when you are still alive and well. It's a good plan. However, these people will lose their lives for nothing. Their families may not even get any benefits. There were always some people who didn't take other people's lives seriously. No matter who is the instigator or the participant, no one can escape from this incident. It's fine on the surface, but secretly, I will definitely make them suffer a fate worse than death. At this time Li Hongyuan was ruthless, but Jingwon was not the least bit surprised. Because of the noise, the surrounding houses also lit up their lights. Jingwon and the others also lit up their lights, but like the other houses, they did not open the door to go out. Jingwon could roughly understand their thoughts. They all knew what kind of people lived there. Even if they realized that something might have happened, they would not go up to avoid attracting trouble. "The reinforcements are here," Li Hongyuan said lightly. Jingwon, who was looking at the fire in a daze, came back to her senses when she heard that. Then she also noticed that something was wrong. On the other side of the house, a group of at least 500 people holding torches and riding horses galloped over. Just when Jingwon was guessing who brought the reinforcements, Li Hongyuan seemed to be performing a magic trick and handed a clairvoyant to her. Jingwon paused and took it. In fact, she wanted to say, "Dear, you are simply a treasure chest." Jingwon raised the clairvoyant and looked carefully. She found a more special position in the group. The seemingly elegant man was riding on the horse with an anxious face. He was swaying on the horse, but he kept shouting, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." Who else could it be but Governor Su? And around him there were a few other people. Although they were not wearing official uniforms, they should be military officers. Ah Yuan knew that he would come. Seeing Li Hongyuan's confident attitude before, how could Jingwon not know? Since this person has some guesses about me, then he will not easily take risks, let alone wallow in the mire with others. This kind of person, if it is not 100% certain, he will never let himself get involved. Even if he does it, he will do it cleanly. He is very familiar with using others to do his dirty work. Not only that, he will not let go of such a good opportunity to perform meritorious deeds. Is there anyone scarier than this kind of person in the world? Jingwon whispered. "Yes, your husband is me. Don't you see that no matter what he does, your husband is still better than him?" Li Hongyuan laughed. "Your skin is thicker than the city wall. What's one time? If you can beat him every time and suppress him until the end, no matter how unwilling he is, he will not be able to make a comeback. Then it will not be too late for you to say this." Jingwon refuted him without holding back. "Then Wan, let's wait and see." Due to the arrival of Governor Su and his men, the originally chaotic situation in the courtyard was quickly brought under control. For some unknown reason, these people did not show any mercy to the black-clothed men who committed the crime. They directly killed them without mercy. The bloody scene was reflected in Jingwon's eyes frame by frame. Jingwan's face turned pale and her hands trembled. Li Hongyuan wanted to take off her clairvoyance, but she stubbornly continued to watch. Li Hongyuan did not quite understand what she was thinking at this time, but he did not insist on stopping her. And in one of the scenes, although Jingwan could not hear it, she could basically guess that the rescuer and the bandit were acquaintances at that time, or even good brothers. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6653520. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, no registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicon.com mobile version reading website, Bicon.com. You're tuning in to the Whispers of Romance YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.